Thank you. You may be seated. Call this meeting to order at 5:02. And tonight we will hear from district leadership about the reorganization plans for the 2026-27 school year. We're also going to try a new format to support timely and efficient board meetings. So during today's session, to ensure the board has enough time to ask questions, we're going to limit the presentation to no more than 20 minutes. Ms. Kirby, will you please run the timer? Mr. Wing, you are on timekeeper and helping keep us on track. So thank you to everyone for your work on making sure the board meetings run well. And Dr. Strom, we're going to turn it to you.
Madam President, members of the board, we're here this evening to talk to you about 26-27 school year and efforts we're making to streamline and become more efficient in Mesa Public Schools. Our purpose in Mesa Public Schools is to serve every student by name, know every student by name, serve them by strength and need, and get them ready for college, career, and community. We know to do this, it takes school-based personnel at a high level. And then to support those school-based personnel, we have district personnel. And our job is to design systems that are efficient so that our school personnel can spend the majority of their day interacting with students, improving learning outcomes for kids. That's our job, is to serve our schools. And so this redesign is really thoughtfully putting in a position where we're valuing our school-based resources and at the same time trying to, with less funding due to declining enrollment, trying to put people in a position where we can have a more effective system to help serve those schools. This is our portrait of the graduate. We know that in the portrait of the graduate, we believe in being collaborators and communicators. This is our job to communicate with the governing board on these redesign plans. And this started way back in the spring of 25. And collaborations-wise, we do want you to know that we're going to show you some outlines of ideas, but some of the critical positions that we're going to fill out of the gate, we want to bring those people on board in those new positions first, and then we want to collaborate on designing job descriptions downstream. So in the spirit of collaboration, Mr. Wing and I have some general ideas on how to get more efficient as a school district, but we also want to bring on more team members so we can collaborate through the process. We appreciate, this is from our listening sessions with several stakeholders. We had a chat with MATS in the spring. We had listening sessions with directors and principals throughout the district. And some of the general feedback was we really appreciated this last school year where we had early and often transparency dialogue with school leaders. And we updated them on our financial status, and we made sure everyone was aware of the process and that they had feedback loops in that process this last year. Same thing has occurred this year so far, in that we've met with people that are affected in this reorganization plan. We've communicated to several different stakeholder groups, and we continue to want to be and desire to be transparent. Our organizational efficiency goals, we want to keep schools open as long as we possibly can. I'm not shocking anyone in this room because the news is hitting you constantly that there are school districts that are currently in the position where their budget's just in a place where they're going to have to examine school closures sooner rather than later. And what I cannot promise as superintendent of Mesa Public Schools is that we won't get there either. But what I can state to you with confidence is the business team and the finance team is going to try to explore every option to get as many revenue generating ideas into this district, explore every option to make sure our district office is run efficiently so that we can keep as many schools open as long as we possibly can. We do also want to leave the last thing that most superintendents will tell you they leave on the plate is maintaining class size. We want you to hear that our funding ratios for schools are one of the last things we want to touch. One of the ways you can save money or be more efficient in a district with a budget is to take your funding ratio that may be 25-1, how you fund schools, how you give teacher contracts to schools, and you just bump it up by 1 to 26, and then you bump it up by 1 to 27. Remember, funding ratios don't necessarily mean that's what class sizes are, because at a school campus, a class size could range in third grade from 18 to 24, but you might be funding at 25, and then fifth and sixth grade might run a little high, so it just depends on your student counts. But we want to try to keep our funding ratio level throughout this district, and we want it to be one of the last levers that we have to pull to make a budget work So we're going to try to delay that funding level increase as long as we possibly can. And we do want you to know, we do anticipate having a $9 to $18 million budget shortfall heading into 26-27. Here's the reality. When new students come into the district, they bring $1, let's say. And when the new students come into the district and they bring that $1, about 60% in Arizona, that's about the average. Depending on the district, you'll see it range from 55 to 65%. About 60% of that $1 goes into classroom stuff, right? Primarily hiring the teacher, salaries and benefits for the teacher. Then 40% of it does all the other things, pays to keep the lights on, pays the water bill, stands up, when you're a growing district, stands up a new department. You may need to expand a department that does special services. You may need to expand your operations department. You may need to expand your transportation department. And so that 40% kind of does all these other things. And when you go into declining enrollment, the easiest part is that part of the dollar bill. The easiest part is saying, okay, we funded some teachers, and now that we're declining by 100 kids, that's 4 teacher contracts that we don't need anymore. That's easy. The hard part's the other 40%. The other 40% support educational programming at schools, support district office functionality, and finding how to reduce budget and become more efficient. That 40% is really hard. It's a hard effort, and it's not nearly as easy as 1,000 students left and you can cut 25 teacher contracts as a result. And please remember, when we talk about cutting teacher contracts, last year we dealt with about 400 FTE we had to cut, of which about 144 were at the district office, if you remember. And so we cut some teacher contracts. In the end, we didn't cut 250 people, right? Because attrition takes care of the majority of that. We end up having to RIF less than 100 people. So when we talk about teacher contracts, oftentimes attrition can take care of that side of the piece. But this other part, this 40%, is the hardest part to figure out how to become more efficient. And that's because it includes utilities, maintenance, and many other additional elements. Here's the reality. The reality is our enrollment picture for the next 3 years has us declining by about 4,000 to 5,000 students over the course of the next 3 years. We have smaller kindergarten cohorts that are coming in. We have larger 12th grade classes that are going out. And the birth rate, and we're seeing this a little bit in kindergarten numbers this year, the birth rate was supposed to go up during the pandemic, and in actuality it went down, and we're seeing a smaller kindergarten cohorts than anticipated even this year on the books. So we do know that we're going to decline in enrollment, and here's the breakdown by grade level: K6, 7, 8, 9, 12. And the fact of the matter is, in the 9th through 12th grade level, you see a large decline, 2,500 kids from last year's 40th day number. That's 17,923 up there. That's the 40th day number published by the Arizona Department of Education. 17,186 was our anticipated number for this year. We're actually a little beyond that at the high school level. We'll talk more about that as we approach our 40th day, which will be in October. We want numbers to solidify before we get too far in front of that. 16,215 is a prediction for 27. 15,419 is a prediction for 28. And so you can see there's between 17,923, which is a realized number, and 15,419, which is a predictive number. We have about 2,500 students worth of decline at the high school level. And folks, to put that in perspective, that's basically like Dobson High just disappearing in the district over the course of the next 3 years. That does not mean, please do not interpret that as we're closing Dobson High. That just is me saying a reality that's how many students that is. And that's a decline over the course of the next 3 years, actually from 23 to 28. That's a decline of about 20% at the high school level that we're anticipating. The issue with that decline at the high school level, and remember, part of this is just smaller cohorts of kids moving through the system. That's a big part of this is, we used to have 4,000 to 5,000 kids in a cohort moving through the system. Now we're dealing with 3,000 to 4,000 kids in a cohort moving through the system. And we know that the 20% at the high school level is going to feel different in a budget. And the reason it's going to feel different is because the weight for a high school student is 26.8% more than a regular ADM, and for an elementary kid, it's only 15% more for a regular ADM. So when you have declining enrollment in high school, it hurts your budget a little bit more. And so what we know is in 26-27, we think we'll decline by about 1,800 kids. We think that's going to be an approximate loss of about $12.5 million in our budget. We put that on a range of 9 to 18 million. We always want to remind people that the federal government keeps having unknowns. We're very grateful that the federal government released their funding for Title I, 3, and 4, as well as 21st Century Learning Grants. That helps us out in the current year, but we're back in another federal budget cycle, and we don't know what's going to happen with this next federal budget cycle. So all this picture leads to the organizational redesign. And before I pass it over to Mr. Wang, one thing I do want to say is this is the hardest part about cabinet level or superintendency level or executive level positions. We're starting a brand new school year, but our job is to be a year and 2 years ahead. That's what we're hired for. 40% of my time is spent in the next year and the year after. And so we want to be out in front of this. We want to make sure the board hears this early and often so we can continue to live into Mesa Public Schools having a really conservative budget that aligns with our values. Mr. Wang.
As Dr. Strom indicated, this fall, the business side, we prepare budget and staffing for the next school year and even the next few school years. And so what you'll see here is an organizational chart, a redesign regarding 3 primary areas. Our area superintendents, currently we have 3 of them, and our teaching and learning department, as well as our student services department. We are going to be recommending later in the governing board meeting the elimination of 5 assistant superintendent positions and replacing that with 2 chief positions. So going from 5 to 2. One will be a chief of academics and one will be a chief of schools. I have a couple more slides to go into it, but I do want to share that all of our interview process will be posted internal only, and that's noted on each of the slides or many of the slides. Let's start with the blue, and that'll be the chief of schools. This individual will be responsible for the systems and operations of all of our schools. Underneath that chief of schools, we will have executive directors who oversee our high school regions, our feeder patterns, that learning hub for each high school. The individual, for example, Dobson High School, that feeder school will have an individual overseeing that. That'll be an executive director role. You'll see within the frame a lot of gray areas. Those will be positions, director roles, certified roles, that will be identified as we begin hiring some of these administrative staff for next school year. Also noted that in the green, underneath the chief of academics, we'll have an executive director overseeing our learning department. We'll have one related services, data and accountability. I'll go over that in a second. What's unique about this organizational chart? For one, right away, it screams collaboration. There will be no silos with any of these areas. Collaboration, particularly as we decrease FTE, that collaboration with each other is going to be critical as we move forward. Each region will have a team player from each of those departments. So underneath that executive director of, in this case, I have Mountain View and Red Mountain as the image shows. We'll have an individual from academic team. We'll have an individual from the related services team. We'll have an individual from the data and accountability, etc. Then in the green section, the rows going horizontal, that's where the chief of academics will oversee executive directors and directors overseeing certain areas such as that, academics and related services I show in this screen here. It is important to note that we have not identified every single one of these position job titles. Hence in gray you see the words insert job. That's because our intention is to hire the chief of schools, hire the chief of academics, and then there'll be a domino effect where then we're going to proceed with hiring the executive directors, who in turn will help us design what the insides will look like, what the needs are for Mesa Public Schools, both for each of the regions, but also some ancillary department staff as well. Ultimately, we're going to be reducing 40 FTE Here it shows about 147 to 104. Quick note, assistant superintendents, as a reminder, we'll be eliminating 5 FTE and replacing with 2 chief of academics and chief of schools. We're going to be reducing administrators and certified specialists. It should be noted that certified specialists are department staff, not school-based staff. Overall, we're looking at what will show $2.5 to $3.5 million savings. Now to some of the rationale. 3 primary reasons. One is to make sure we're streamlining our efforts, having more manageable span of control, where we have an individual overseeing a region versus multiple regions. We are still the largest school district in Arizona. I mentioned that this will require collaboration and teaming. Really, there'll be no way to have a siloed process anymore. When you are reducing FTE, it forces you to look at what we're currently doing, what's working, what's not needed. It also requires us to streamline some processes. Also with the feeder patterns, we can improve our communications at the local level and celebrations as well. Another rationale is to align our strategic decision-making, removing those silos, requiring that collaboration with the chief of academics, his or her team, and the chief of schools, his or her team. Will make us or force us to have that strategic decision-making, which we aspire as well. And again, having that local focus. And then sustainability, declining enrollment, declining in revenue. We do need to be fiscally responsible moving forward. This means putting an impact at our superintendency level, reducing that, and also reducing non-school staffing. Along the way, having that vision of the future, still having the leadership, building that leadership capacity, building the leadership pathways for succession planning, things as well. Some timelines. This was put together very carefully, and hence not filling in the inner side of it yet. It'll continue to be built carefully as we hire through those positions and build the rest of the org chart. We began sharing this information with the board starting in April through June. We did notify everybody who may be affected starting on July 9th. That included the 5 assistant superintendents. July 15th, we notified and informed all administrators, including principals, made them aware. A little later in July, we notified the certified staff. Today, you'll see on the personnel action, we're recommending the elimination and non-renewal of 5 assistant superintendent positions, but adding the 2 chief of schools and chief of academic positions. Tomorrow, we're going to post internally only for those 2 jobs. Next board meeting on August 28th, we're going to be recommending hires for these 2 positions, again, starting July 1, 2026 for next school year. And then we'll proceed, going back to that domino effect, we're going to recommend the table of organization to include those executive directors and directors, post those jobs internally. Late September, recommend hires for that. And then starting in September through December, really building the job titles and job descriptions, recommending those positions to the governing board, and getting hires done before winter break. It's important that we budget and staff before winter break because spring is not kind to education. We need to get that done by winter break. So hence the timelines through December. Just a reminder, internal only postings and hires, intention to complete by winter break. We wanted to make sure individuals who are not selected, because we are reducing in FTE, have other opportunities within Mesa Public Schools. We give school staffing out in January, so there may be some interest from those individuals to other positions, school-based positions within Mesa Public Schools. Just give you a little snapshot of things we're working on. This district office redesign will save us about $2.5 to $3.5 million. We are in the middle of are actually just starting with a stipend audit that we're intending on looking at making some adjustments to. As Dr. Strom indicated, when you lose enrollment, when you reduce enrollment, doing the math as far as teacher allocations, there'll be a reduction in there as well, where a school with 4th or 3rd grade teachers may only need 3 next year, and mostly through attrition will will make up those, or that's where we'll be able to delete those positions. So far, $7.5 to $10.5 million, and I understand we have more work to do because a previous slide, Dr. Strom shared, up to $18 million we're needing to seek. So we have more work to do. And with that, we're open for questions.
40 seconds to go.
Yep.
Look at you. Thank you. Board members, any questions? Anyone want to start?
So thank you for the presentation. It's excellent. I appreciate the breakdown of the dollar amounts and the rationale. I just have one quick question, and that is limiting the positions to post internally only. Could you just go back over that part and the rationale for only listing positions internally?
Certainly. To begin, because we're the largest school district in Arizona, we have a lot of FTE, a lot of personnel, and we have talented personnel. So our focus is really to honor Mesa Public Schools and the work we're doing. While the responsibilities will shift, the job descriptions will shift, the job titles will shift, and the approach will shift. We wanted to give an opportunity to our employees first.
All right, thank you.
Piggybacking on that real quick, if there is no one that applies, I assume that will then go an external posting?
That is a great assumption, yes. If no one applies or individuals are not qualified for a position, we would have to go external.
Ms. Hutchinson?
Thank you very much. So I did notice that, that the reduction of full-time employees goes from 147 to 104. But I also noticed that emphasis, because it's on many of the slides, that the postings will be internal. So, and you rightly mentioned that these are the people who have done the work in our district. And some of them have done this work for decades. What assurances do the employees have that the selection process will be fair and that truly Mesa internal candidates will be selected to remain with Mesa Public Schools?
Certainly, we're going to go through multiple interview processes. To begin with, tomorrow per approval with the governing board tonight, or if the board approves tonight, we're going to be posting the 2 chief positions. We run a large interview panel, a small interview panel. That large interview and small interview panel will be facilitated by Miss Jenny in Human Resources and her team. The panel will be inclusive with various stakeholders, classified, certified, administrative, school-based, department-based, et cetera. The smaller one will be comprised of similar stakeholders. Both interviews will determine finalists, and those finalists will move forward with for Dr. Strom and myself. We will not be participating in the large or small interview panel. And then those practices will continue throughout the rest of the hiring. So the individuals, there may be competition, so I can't guarantee somebody to get a certain job, but they're going to have to go through that interview process through HR. But we've been explicit internal-only postings. That's our primary focus. And that'll be communicated in our communication tomorrow in Leadership Matters as well.
And if I could follow up, the postings, how will employees be informed that the postings are posted? How is there going to be, how will the publicity be handled for these postings so that employees, particularly the 147 that are going to be impacted, how do they know that those positions are available? And when the postings occur, will there be detailed descriptions of the job so that they can adequately prepare for those interviews?
Certainly, to begin in those timelines, starting in July, we notified all affected employees, and we provided the same timelines we shared with you. So they were already provided the heads up in case they wanted to start looking at building their resume, updating the resume, et cetera. Leadership Matters, we have a platform tomorrow that all administrators are required to review. And included in that, we just reviewed it this afternoon. They'll be notified of the procedures, the timelines, even when we're hosting interviews, because we're going to need some of them to be on interview panels. So maybe pencil in some time on those, on that calendar, but B, for those who are interested, they have an understanding, they can pencil in some time during those dates to be interviewed as well. And then I believe Human Resources is notifying the 147 as well, but I'll follow up and make sure that happens.
Great, thank you for that.
And that'll continue, by the way, not just, I'm using tomorrow's example, but that'll continue along the way through our,
In Leadership Matters.
Yep.
Thank you so much, appreciate that information.
Madam President?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to follow up real quickly to piggyback off of Member Hutchinson, we have some of the positions clearly identified job description, title. A majority of them, however, have not yet gotten that. So none of our employees that are affected can actually contemplate applying for a job that they don't know what the encompasses, what the work encompasses, correct? So is that, are we looking at providing those opportunities after the chief of staff and schools, not staff, sorry, that's you, school and academics, and then the executive directors? And once they fill in the rest of the charts and columns?
yeah.
Is that what you?
To begin with, our postings have the job description. So if somebody doesn't get an email or doesn't read Leadership Matters, the job posting will have the job descriptions. But it is important for us, Ms. Benson, to hire the chief of academics, hire the chief of schools. Conceptually, we have the executive directors of the regions and then those underneath the academics. We want to include those two individuals. After
Right, what I'm
hired, help
saying is,
build
we can't do the rest of the gray until those
yeah,
others
yeah.
are, that's what I'm saying.
So the two chiefs, followed by the executive directors, both horizontal and vertical, and then we'll work with them to build the foundation, the gray area.
Okay, and that's when those jobs will be posted, so that they have adequate time. Okay, so real quick, I did quick math. We're looking at about a 29 to 30% reduction in admin, overall admin. So I know that many of the stakeholders in Mesa want, again, as I said during the RIF process, as little impact to schools directly and direct classrooms as possible. So is the reduction in admin staff comparable to the percentage of reduction of our classified and our certified from earlier this year? Do we know what percentage that?
Last year's, off the top of my head, last year's percentage, we eliminated about 144 central office jobs. I think our total was around 400. So that's 15/40. So put that at about, oh geez, Louise,
30%?
30%,
Okay,
right?
so it's comparable.
So it's comparable to last year. The difference is going to be for this year. We're hoping that between the stipends audit and this redesign, plus the natural student attrition of contracts, that we'll be able to make the budget whole headed into next year. So the 30% you're referring to right now is 30% of the jobs the 147 jobs that are available. I actually think that will be closer to 50 to 60% if we can get through this budget cycle. Once again, and we're on current year funding, so you say, how would you not know that you can get through this budget cycle? We got to know what our numbers are for students at 40th day and 100th day. And so with that being said, if everything comes in as we think it may come in, we think we might be able to get out of the planning for 26, 27, with this being 50 to 60% of the jobs that we cut are in this arena that we're talking about right now.
Okay, because having just recently left the classroom, we are asking our building people and our teachers in particular to do more with less. And we need to make sure that that is being modeled at the top, that is occurring as well. Because really we're here for students. And so anything that we do, that should be our focus. How does this impact student learning? And is it going to improve it? So that's my next question is, can you kind of discuss just briefly the benefits of, because you addressed it briefly, Mr. Wing, the benefits of the vertical alignment within each one of our high school districts. How is that? How do you foresee that improving student outcomes?
to begin with, and I failed to mention this, Mrs. Benson, Governing Board, our intention is to have that regional team to be housed at a high school. So there's going to be more grounded connections with the high school and then the feeder schools along the way. So to me, that's begin one. We're going to be in the boots on the ground at the schools and be a presence at the schools with this foundation. The other part too, and I shared it earlier, whenever you're reducing FTE, that doesn't mean tasks necessarily go away. So it forces us to look at what's being done well and how can we expand on that. What's being done not so well, how can we improve on that? What's being done that we may go, why are we doing this? Because we've always done it and we need to identify all of that. Another part, and I shared this already, is the streamlining of procedures and processes, removing barriers for our staff. In our calculations, we did show a little investment in our information systems department in that chart of the reduction of FTE. More so because as we're reducing FTE, we need to make sure we're leveraging all of our systems. And our IS department has been probably lacking compared to others, where we can bump and leverage that. That way individuals at schools can focus on the now what to improve student data outcomes versus the gathering of data and trying to analyze it. It's more focusing on now what. Dr. Strom, anything to add?
Yeah, so vertical articulation across school systems is really important. One of the things that our teaching and learning department did this summer is they ran our June Leadership Academy in a model where July Leadership Academy in a model where high school principals were leading out regional development, and we received so much positive feedback from elementary principals and junior high principals that they understood what was occurring on their high school campus and that the things that they could build on at the early grades, including at the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level, knowledge of the world of work and how that leads into college and career academies is drastically important. And I'll just tell you a brief story about my dad's teaching experience to tell you how important vertical articulation is. And that is, at a high school level, he was always interested in understanding where 2nd and 3rd and 4th grade math talent was. And if you don't have vertical articulation and those kids come up in the summer and they work with your high school math department in order to improve their mathematical skills and computational thinking and quantitative reasoning, and then they go back to their elementary side of things and they just have to do 2nd grade math in the 2nd grade again or 3rd grade math in the 3rd grade again after improving their skills in the summer, that defeats the purpose of helping kids get more and more advanced skills. And so when you're functioning on a regional level, what should happen is these executive directors should be paying attention to what site leaders are trying to drive on their campus, and then they should be able to marry, like, this experience leads to this experience, and that experience leads to that experience. Because one thing I'm a firm believer in is Heckman's work, and Heckman says skill begets skill. You can't creatively think on a unstudied foundation of knowledge. Knowledge is the first way that you get to critical thinking. You have to have knowledge to critically think. And so skill begets skill leads into that, and that you build a kid's skill, and now you need to know what the next learning progression is, and the next learning progression is. And we think these regions will be able to focus on those learning progressions from a K-12, pre-K-12 system.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that potentially this adds to the ability to actually really live into the promise that we are serving our students by strength and need, because we have this open-ended, open dialogue vertically within each region. So if we have a spectacularly gifted language student, for example, in 3rd grade, then, maybe we're not going to limit them just to 3rd grade reading materials. Okay, so do you see that, one more. So do you see that this also provides the ability to rebuild smaller communities, much like when I was young, like school and church was where you built community and friends and family, and you connected in that way. So if we have this vertical alignment and we have executive directors that are housed, because also I think I heard you say, Mr. Wing, that majority of admin is now going to be at the building level, right? Where
The regional teams will be at the building level.
yeah. So in that regional team, is there going to be a lot of, I see, I'm not going to ask it as a question, I see that there's going to be a lot of opportunity to now have regional communities kind of develop, because now I know I'm going to go to Dobson. I know I'm going to go to Westwood, assuming they all stay and work in that. Do you see that as a added benefit as well?
Yeah, what we know from our study on research of why people choose systems is, and it's no different than the HR research, in that people choose a system, but they leave a team, right? They choose a system, they leave a team. That's what HR people will tell you. And on the school-based side, parents don't choose Mesa Public Schools. They choose Dobson High. They choose Serine. They choose Pomeroy. And if we can get parents bought into their local community, right, and buying into that system of choice within their community, we think we have a better shot of making sure kids stay with us K-12. One thing that we know from research is mobility hurts kids. And you know, even within school year mobility is even harder than across school year mobility. So when a kid switches first quarter to second quarter, that's really hard on a kid. And so what we're hoping is that people find a home within their community and say, I really belong to the Dobson Mustang community or the Westwood Warrior community. And we can wrap our services around with this executive director team. I do want to mention this housing these administrators at the school sites has more value to Mr. Moore, Mr. Wing, and myself than the educational value. It also allows us to start to reduce the district footprint of buildings, because we'll be able to house more people centrally here at Stapley campus, and then we can look at our facility and our facility footprint, which is another efficiency we're after.
President Davis. I would love to see some data on how maybe if other districts have restructured how that has improved student outcomes, because I'd love to see that information if we have that. But my question is, how are we going to provide consistency throughout the district when we're looking at these regional communities?
Yeah. The biggest aspect of consistency is going to exist in the two most important hires in the structure out of the gate. We've got to have a chief of academics and a chief of schools who collaborate together well, integrate the learning experiences, and understand that in a parent choice market, we can't have everything within a region be exactly the same. There's got to be choice within a region. Now, across regions, we may replicate those choices. So if we have a design thinking choice in the Red Mountain region, how do we if it's successful, how do we take that and replicate it in other regions? But it's going to start with a strong chief of academics and chief of schools who model our promise and our portrait and collaborate and communicate and make sure that we understand what's happening in every region and whether we want to replicate things in other regions because they're working well in one region.
One more question. Looking at those enrollment numbers at the beginning, it's showing that our high schools got hit harder than we expected. How can we figure out where these students have gone and why?
I appreciate that question. One of the things we've been thinking about executing is exploring our no-shows for the summer at the high school level and hiring a third-party external researcher. And there's groups out there that do this type of research. It's just going to cost a little bit of money. We certainly do not want to spend a full teacher FTE on this, but we'd be more than willing, if the board and the board president were willing to give us permission, we'd be more than willing to hire a research firm to go out and contact these no-shows and kind of learn, like, why'd you make the choices that you made for your kid. Now, I will almost guarantee you that a lot of the choice was people were mobile and they moved, but from the people that didn't move, we would be very interested in learning why they didn't choose our system for their subsequent year. But we can talk about that in individual check-ins if you want to, and whether you would want to do that.
Sutchinson.
Thank you, President Davis. I've heard the word collaborate a lot, and I'm glad to have heard the word collaborate. And it seems to me that as the system is personified, that each person that is hired will be brought into the mix and will be part of the collaborative team. Correct? So we hire the chief of schools, the chief of academics, then executive directors and directors. And as we fill out with real people this model, they will collaborate to fill out the rest of the jobs. Okay, my suggestion would be, and it's from being long time in the district, you guys are relatively new, and I do mean you guys, Dr. Strom, Mr. Wing. There are people in our district who have been doing this work, as I mentioned, for decades. My suggestion is that you consult and/or collaborate with those people. They know this work the best, and if you bring them into the discussion, I think you're going to have better decisions. I know that a lot of the executive directors, because it is an internal process, will be of people of the district. I get that. But they don't always know the work. And when job descriptions are being developed for a particular position that has been deemed to be appropriate for this particular model, that the people that are doing the work are considered and they are asked. Because it's part of the Mesa tradition, whenever there has been a reorg, that the superintendent brings in the people who do the work. And I think that they can provide some really valuable insight and may help you to craft those positions to truly impact, as Member Benson said, the student outcomes. If we are going to be efficient, then let's make sure we know what each job is and that it meets the needs of our kids. And the best people to know that are the people that are working with our kids. So I'm hopeful that not just for the sake of efficiency, but so that we are living our promise to our community, but most importantly to our kids, that student outcomes will be enhanced and we will support our schools better in this model. But we better ask the people doing the work to make sure that the model, and I'm going to look for that collaboration as the model progresses.
3 minutes.
Thank you, timekeeper. Go ahead, Ms. Mulder.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I just had a quick follow-up, because we were talking about the regions. Historically, back in the day, Mesa used to be in regions, didn't it? At some, back in our history?
Ms. Walden, my historical knowledge is, yes, they had regions, but not to this degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not entirely new, though. All right, thank you. That was it.
Thank you. Do we see, on this chief of academics, is special education falling in one of those, job titles?
It is, and some of the actual terms may be changed depending on, the guidance from the two chief positions when we hire them, but it'll be underneath that executive director related services. I'm not saying, I think the related services is in pencil,
And,
but you get
and
the
just,
idea.
Just an example of collaboration, we were gonna call those executive director of regions executive principals, but in feedback with someone that's been a 20-year employee of Mesa Public Schools, and then a ALP, we've determined that it's better to the public to view those as executive directors. And so that's what Mr. Wing is referring to when he talks about the names aren't necessarily penciled in yet, and that's the flexibility we're trying to go with moving forward as we hire people, that they'll have input into this system.
Thank you. 1 minute. Any other questions? We appreciate the time that's gone into this. It's all these job titles are tied to people. And so that's always a hard thing as we live into this budget and these different, it's hard, it's dealing with people. And so that's always a hard thing to do. But we want to be mindful of everyone and making sure that we're communicating and that communication is out there. I do want to echo Mrs. Hutchinson on collaborating. I think talking to our teachers, seeing where their needs are. I've heard a lot the last couple weeks on teachers and making sure that we're hearing what they need at that level. And so as we plan out this new design, that we make sure that we are listening to those that are out there in our classrooms working with our kids every day. So as we move forward, we appreciate this communication and we hope that it continues out. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Kirby, will you please take our vote?
Mrs. Chaffee votes aye.
With a vote of 5 yeas, the meeting is adjourned at 5:48, and we will be back at 6 o'clock for our regular meeting. Thank you so much. Thank you. Call this meeting to order at 6:03. I'm sorry we're a few minutes late. We were trying to get some dinner in real quick. Welcome to Thursday. We have a new day and a new time at 6 p.m. So, and just a quick reminder, any citizen who wishes to speak on an agenda item must complete the sign-in sheet in the lobby prior to public comment time on the board agenda. Also, you may have noticed a couple changes in the formatting on the board agenda. Next to each agenda category, we listed a time. These are all approximate, so don't hold us to it, and designed to support a timely and efficient board meeting. We're going to do our best to stick close to them, but again, they are approximate. We're also going to be using a new timing for the information items, formerly discussion items, so you'll see that change also. We will also have up to 10 minutes for the presentation, then up to 10 minutes for questions. Since this is our first meeting using this structure, we built in a little extra time, so we'll do up to 15 minutes for the presentation and 15 minutes for discussions or questions. And Mr. Wing, we've asked if he will be our timekeeper, and Ms. Kirby will please run the timer. So we also ask for your patience and understanding as we work to make the best use of everyone's time at these board meetings. So with that, this evening, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Ms. Arlinda Mann, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary West. And then please remain standing for National Anthem, which is recorded from Keynote Orchestra.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Thank you. We will begin tonight playing a video on governing board procedures, and then I will read a statement.
Welcome to the Mesa Public Schools Governing Board meeting. We appreciate your interest in the district. The 5 elected governing board members serve without compensation and volunteer countless hours. The president and the clerk of the board are elected in January. Under state law, the governing board may only discuss and vote on matters that are on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Agendas are posted a minimum of 24 hours in advance on the Mesa Public Schools website and in the Curriculum Services Center. Copies of tonight's agenda are located in the lobby. The public may speak on any item of business on the agenda that the board discusses or requires the board to take action. If you wish to comment on an action or discussion item, please complete a request to address the board form before the item is discussed. The form is located in the lobby. Members of the public will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to speak once recognized by the governing board president. Please state your name before you speak. We ask that all speakers show respect and courtesy to others. During the second regular meeting of each month, the agenda will include a call to the public, which is an opportunity to speak to the governing board about a school district matter that is not on the agenda. Please submit a request to address the board form to participate in the call to the public. If you would like the board to consider adding an item to a future agenda, you may submit your request in writing to the board at least 5 working days before that meeting. The superintendent or governing board president will consider your request. Thank you for your attendance and involvement in tonight's meeting.
This is an official governing board meeting. The board has important business to conduct that is essential to the operation of the district. Everyone is welcome to express ideas or concerns to the board in accordance with the agenda. The poster in the boardroom describes positive behaviors expected and behaviors that cannot be tolerated. Please speak and act respectively and actively listen. Be kind. Verbal harassment, abusive or foul language, intimidation, or disruption have no place in a classroom or the boardroom. Please note side conversations or reactive comments. They can be disruptive. It is the governing board president's responsibility to maintain proper order so the board can conduct its business in an orderly and efficient manner. If you are disruptive or interfere with the conduct of this meeting, you will be asked to leave so the board can conduct the business of the district. We are now going to turn the time over to Jen Snyder, Director of Communications, as she shows us through some of what's inside Mesa Public Schools. Ms. Snyder, it's all you.
All right. There we go. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Jen Snyder. I'm the Director of Communications and Engagement for the district. We have decided to change the superintendent report to find out what's inside, to show you a few of the things that are going on around the district. So here we go, and I have the clicker. All right, first up, I want to bring your attention to a beloved tradition at Red Mountain High School. Every summer, Red Mountain staff goes and delivers signs to students who earn a 5 on one or more of their AP exams. For those that don't know, 5 is the highest you can get on your AP exam, and it's an incredible feat, and we love seeing that our students celebrate for their outstanding academics. Next. The Finance Department at Mesa Public Schools was awarded the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting from both ASBO, the Association of School Business Officials, and GFOA, the Government Finance Association, for the 39th, I'm going to say that again, 39th consecutive year. We want to thank our finance team for all they do as we continue to be outstanding stewards of our taxpayer dollars. This is a recognition that we're pretty proud of. If you've driven down Center Street between Broadway and Main, you may have noticed a beautiful new mural on the City of Mesa's Community Services building. Our own Micah, Mesa Creative Youth Agency students designed and painted this project. The students put in over 500 of working hours to create this mural, and that included in the hot summer months. I encourage you to drive by and check it out. It's absolutely stunning. All right, as we get closer to the first day of school, I'm going in chronological order, by the way, for this. Lincoln Elementary's annual bus tour helps get their students and neighborhoods ready for the first day of school. The tour takes Lincoln staff by the bus stops and they hand out candy and T-shirts and bring out lots of Cougar energy. And it's a great way for them to get excited for the first day of school. Speaking of getting excited for the first day of school, freshman orientation took place at all 6 of our comprehensive high schools. They went all out, welcoming the class of 2029. From lively pep rallies to link crews showing freshmen around, our new freshmen were sure to feel home when they stepped onto campus the first day of school. The back to school event in partnership with Community Bridges was a huge success. Thank you to all MPS staff, which include district staff, principals, Dr. Strom, President Davis, Clerk Chaffee, for showing up to volunteer. Over 1,500 students received free backpacks, school supplies, and even haircuts to start the school year off with confidence. It was a great event, and I know our principals were super excited anytime that they saw one of their kids. This included Principal Arbogast, who saw one of her students from back in the day, who is now a Mesa police officer. And then came the big day, first day of school. We were thrilled to welcome back our students to our schools. The energy was high, our staff was ready, and the students were so excited to see their friends and teachers. We had district directors and administrators on every campus on the first day of school. They saw lots of things to celebrate and were there to help with any issues that they may have had. And one of our directors sent us this note because as the big moments are special, but sometimes it's these little ones that make all the difference. So I'm going to read this out loud. Mrs. Nunez, an English language development teacher at Jefferson Elementary in Mesa Public Schools, helped a 4th grade girl shake out first day jitters and turn nerves into smiles. Mrs. Nunez greeted her by name to help her ease into her day. In Mesa Public Schools, we know students by name, serve them by strength and need. Thank you to Ms. Nunez and the many dedicated teachers and staff across the district. The first day of school was filled with laughter, warmth, and excitement. Last week, 30 Porter students were selected by the staff to receive positive phone calls home. The students were recognized for being responsible, respectful, and safe, as well as demonstrating avid skills such as writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. And then, are you ready for it? Football's just around the corner. Our annual Football Media Day was held yesterday at Dave & Buster's. Members from the boys tackle and girls flag football team from all 6 of our high schools were present and interviewed by local media. We can't wait for Friday Night Lights and to see our incredible student athletes in action this fall. And that includes this Find Out What's Inside. I want to remind everyone that the district has social media that has even more of these stories. Every single one of our schools has social media accounts, and I encourage you to follow them all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. That was great. And now, Dr. Strom, we're going to turn the time to you for recognitions.
President Davis, members of the board. At Mesa Public Schools, we know our staff and students are at the heart of everything we do. It's their dedication and talent that truly sets our district apart. Tonight, we're going to introduce a little change to the recognition process for our state level champions and honorees. We're also going to honor a couple other people. To streamline our celebrations, we're implementing this process. We'll ask honorees to stand from their seats to be recognized. We'll then take a brief break during which the board will be in front. Pictures can be taken with the board. And then after the pictures get taken with the board, we can tell you and your guests you can stay for the board meeting if you desire, or you can continue your celebrations elsewhere. In the long run, we will have a display out in the courtyard area for you to take pictures with your family and friends in front of Mesa Public Schools. Media elements, and hopefully as we streamline this process, we'll be able to honor all those who are both state champions and honorees throughout the state of Arizona. Tonight, we're proud to recognize Amy Brighton Bucher, principal at Kerr Center for Agri-Science, who has been named Arizona Future Farmers of America Administrator of the Year. Amy, please stand to be recognized if you would. It's been a privilege to be out at Kerr Agri-Science and watch the kids learn. I will tell you, the idea that Amy generated is fascinating, to watch kids learn the state standards through the agricultural elements. And one of my best moments of last year was watching a young man who explained to me that his chicken or hen went for $4. And I said, $4? And he said, no. I said, 40? No. I said, 400? He said, no. Apparently this chicken or hen went for like $4,000, and so that goes to the kids' scholarship fund, and we're very grateful for all those farmers who come and support our kids at FFA events throughout the state of Arizona. I'd also like, if she's back there, if someone can pull her out front right now, Miss Erica LaSuere. Miss LaSuere, could you join us for a moment? We'd like to take a moment. This is a little out of the norm. We normally honor state honorees and administrators of the year honorees, but I'd like to take a moment to recognize Miss LaSuere. Miss LaSuere is here with us tonight and has been at quite a few board meetings for the last 3 years. Eric is a proud Mesa High graduate and has been with MPS for 5 years. Most recently, she was my administrative assistant when I was associate superintendent, and she currently helps Mr. Wing out as the chief of staff. Her husband was offered a great opportunity in Utah. I promise you, we tried to help to convince her to stay here. We thought about virtual marriages and other ways to make this work, but she's committed. She's committed to joining him in Utah. And tonight's Miss LaSuere's last board meeting, and the board and I would just like to take a moment to thank you for all your contributions. Thank you, Erica. We wish you well. And then finally, before we get to the picture time, we'd all like to take a moment to just pay a lot of gratitude to Miss Jill Benza. This morning, we had the opportunity, Member Hutchinson, I know, was there. I probably will miss someone. President Davis was there. I was there as well. I'm sure there's several people in the crowd there as well. We had a moment and opportunity to honor Miss Benza. This is Miss Jill Benza, the mother of the principal. I want to be clear on that, the mother of the principal at Shepherd Junior High School. And she recently passed away. She was a resident of Mesa since 1981. Miss Benza proudly worked for Mesa Public Schools for 26 years in a career that saw her earn a college degree, and rise through the ranks of a lunchroom employee. I believe I heard this morning, like either Pomeroy or Sarine, or maybe Chrisman. I heard Chrisman this morning during the eulogy. So she was a lunchroom employee that rose to the level of assistant superintendent. Her career is a testament to the power of education that changed lives. One thing that came clear this morning is how passionate she was about helping those who had less. And she was just a staunch supporter of getting as many resources into those who had less hands. For decades, Ms. Benza actively served the community through the United Food Bank, city committees, and the Rotary. Her service and dedication to others was celebrated in 2015 when she was the Mesa Woman of the Year. Mrs. Benza's impact and legacy at Mesa Public Schools will be felt for years to come. And so we'd like to just honor her as we break now for pictures. Thank you, Ms. Benza, for all you did for us. If you could take time to take pictures, Erica and Amy, the board will meet you down front here.
For you, Casey. I don't know why I'm taking. Yes.
Thank you. And if you want to continue your celebrations, we are not offended one bit. Go have fun. Thank you. This moves us into our public comment section. Okay. Now is the time on the agenda designated for public comment on agenda items. Mrs. Chaffee, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, we have 5 people who've signed up to speak tonight.
Okay, since we have 5 speakers, each person will have 3 minutes to speak. And Mrs. Chaffee, will you lead us through this agenda item?
Absolutely. I will call the first 3 names, and then I'll let the next 2 know that they're on deck. So our first 3 people will be Jason Smithson, Mark Lowe, and then Amber McAfee. Right after that, we will have Laura Metcalf and Peter Boyle. If you'll come up to the podium and say your name and how you're associated with our district.
Members of the board, Dr. Strom, thank you guys for having me here tonight. My name is Jason Smithson. My son's a second grader at Webster Elementary. I come here as a concerned parent of a child with special needs and also to advocate for more than 10,000 students who receive some type of special needs services within MPS. I'm deeply concerned about the proposed elimination of the assistant superintendent positions, but most importantly, the position held by our assistant superintendent for special education. While I understand these changes are tied to difficult district-wide layoffs, the loss of our most visible and effective advocate is devastating. Over the years, I've spoken to thousands of families of children with special needs. The common thread among us is a profound sense of invisibility. Too often, we don't feel seen and we don't feel heard. Many of us feel like afterthoughts in a system that is designed to embrace every student. Are you aware that when district officials visit campuses, they rarely step into special education classrooms? This silence is felt and the absence is noticed. As parents, we are already climbing a steep hill, navigating services, battling stigmas, and confronting misconceptions. Unless you've raised a child with special needs, it's impossible to fully grasp the emotional, mental, and physical weight it places on a family. Each school year, we face the same questions and fears. Will my child be safe? Will their IEP be followed? Will their needs be met? Will they be bullied? Will they be accepted? These are the very concerns that push many families to leave public education in favor of homeschooling or private alternatives. And now, with the proposed elimination of a role that directly supports and uplifts our children and families, I fear even more students will be lost to the system. For me personally, the only reason I am not homeschooling my son today is because of MPS's Rise and Soar program. In 2.5 years, I have watched my son go from a nonverbal, independent playing toddler to a child who communicates in full sentences, engages with friends, and thrives, all thanks to his dedicated teachers, therapists, and instructional aides. While I understand the need to evaluate administrative roles, I urge that if you must remove the position, I ask that you please give special education an executive director role. Roughly 20% of our students receive some sort of special education services. Special education is not just another department, it's a lifeline. I ask that you please don't let our children be collateral damage in this budget decision. Let them be seen and let them be heard. Let us continue the progress we've fought so hard to achieve. Thank you, guys.
This could be a little bit different note. Family of Lowe, first name Mark, Madam President, board members. Tonight, your board is being asked to approve $350,000 on subject 260331 for one-to-one nursing services, SLPs, psychologists, etc. for 3 students that is not in alignment with board goals. Superintendents can collaborate continuously where your board can only collaborate during your board meetings. That's a glaring problem. Board members are at a distinct disadvantage with the work product they were elected to produce with no pay. When board members are presented with an executive summary that does not constrain those asking for funds to be transparent about how the funds are spent, it can and does lead to waste, fraud, and abuse. The funds spent on consultants who were hired to identify how MPS can market itself to the community in order to attract more students failed miserably. I have seen no presentation of how funds requested are spent during your board meetings. Where and how do you get confidence to know how funds are spent? My experience shows that public records requests are slow-walked and ignored. And the recent removal of superintendent's contact information from the Mesa Public Schools website superintendent's page tells me that transparency and accountability are not on the MPS's superintendent's agenda. That's a huge problem. Is $350,000 to support 3 special needs students with nurses, SPLs, psychologists, etc., $116,666 per student, and in addition to the base amount spent on every other student receives in support of their learning, appropriate? This statement is made in the request. Mesa Public Schools initially intends to utilize the following vendors: Educational Contracting LLC, Everybody Matters, Inc., and MGA Home Healthcare LLC. Troubling are the words initially intends, as they do not demonstrate the thoughtful research that taxpayer-funded, paid public servants' continuous collaboration work product, which ought to be presented to your board for its approval. Details matter. The lack of hard costs and vendor commitment provides opportunity for waste, fraud, and abuse. Tonight's request from the Associate Superintendent, although relatively small, does demonstrate a pattern regularly used by this superintendency on this board as business as usual, which puts each board member who participates by supporting it at risk. Meanwhile, Peoria School Board tonight will have its first read draft of no DEI initiatives along with no critical race theory. Peoria is getting back to education. Mesa Public Schools must
Hello, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Strom. My name is Amber McAfee, and I am the governing board president of EVIT. And two of my board members are here with me, and we are here to say thank you for signing the IGA. We are committed to offering quality CTE to all the students in Mesa, and we are very excited to see your academy model and see it succeed. I'm here especially to ask board member to board member if we can have a closer collaboration, if we can celebrate in some of your celebrations, and we can speak more collaboratively on needs and how we can work together to basically bring the needs of the workforce into Mesa and the East Valley. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Have a good night.
Good afternoon, or good evening, Madam President, board members, administration. I am Dr. Laura Metcalf. I am a proud Westwood graduate, and I am an East Valley Institute of Technology school board member. On behalf of EVIT, I want to thank each of you for signing our IGA for the forward movement of our workforce here in Mesa and in the East Valley as a whole. I have been a CTE teacher and administrator for most of my career, and I understand the power of what CTE does, and Mesa Schools has led the way in that area. I would also second my colleagues' request that perhaps we can collaborate as a board and look at the areas that we can push this forward even further. But I thank you again for your forward thinking and your support of our students, the community, industry, and education as a whole. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Madam President, members, and administration. My name is Peter Boyle. I also serve on the EVIT governing board with Dr. Metcalf and President McAfee, and I am also here to thank you. I know that might not happen often from this podium, but we are so grateful for the continued partnership and collaboration with Mesa Public Schools. You are our largest feeder district. We love that we're just in your neighborhood right down the road. And with this IGA, which you have unanimously passed, and we can't wait to get to more great work together, especially as President McAfee mentioned, you transition to different models at different schools. So we look forward to another just strong few years of partnership. Thank you so much.
President Davis, that concludes our public comment.
Thank you. We'll now move into the review. We now have review the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are approved with one vote with no discussion. If a board member would like to pull a consent agenda item, please do so now.
Yes, Madam President, I believe when a public comment addresses a consent agenda item, that item gets removed. Was item D removed from consent?
It was not.
May I have that item pulled?
Okay, you bet. Thank you. I'll give
Usually,
Ms. Kirby a minute. And,
yeah, usually when there's comment, it ends up automatically getting pulled, but I still saw it on consent.
Make sure we refresh our computers too as that gets changed. You're fine. Okay, I'll continue moving on. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel request, including the addendum? Oh, I'm sorry. I was just, oh, you're fine. It moved on my computer, sorry. I didn't want the timekeeper getting mad at us, Miss Kirby, so. Are you good? Thank you. All right, we're going to move on. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel request, including the addendum?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And Mr. Wing, will you tell us a little bit more about this personnel request?
President Davis, Governing Board, Dr. Strom, Superintendent, audience. As shared in earlier this evening's study session, we are recommending an organizational redesign, and starting to that today, that includes recommending to the Governing Board the elimination of 5 assistant superintendent positions while adding 2 chief positions, chief of staff, chief of schools and chief of academics.
Thank you. Board members, any discussion?
President Davis, thank you. In thinking about the comments made by Mr. Smithson, I welcome that we have a member of the public, a parent, who has made some suggestions. I would encourage staff and parents and students, as well as the public, to write to the board with their ideas. It's really easy to write to us. You go to the MPS website, the governing board is right up at the top of the home page. And if you hit the governing board page, you scroll down to contact the governing board. In the spirit of collaboration, I would encourage the public to write us questions, ideas, comments, concerns, such as Mr. Smithson made this evening. And that we keep a record of these types of comments and concerns and the suggestions that he offered. I think this is not where more cooks spoil the broth. This is where more perspectives lead to better decisions. So I would encourage us to take into consideration and also encourage folks to contact us.
Thank you. Ms. Benson?
Yeah, may I make a comment? To piggyback off of Member Hutchinson and the parent that spoke earlier, approximately 20% of our student base falls under special education. So I had actually, as a sidebar, asked Mr. Wing, are we going to make sure that that population is adequately taken care of? Because, well, in a general education classroom, we have a diversity of need. The diversity of need in SPED is immense. What I taught, gifted, should be under, it's a special ed category. Many people don't qualify it as that or discuss it as that, but that's in fact what it is. So we need to make sure that we are servicing that population and making sure that supports are there that are adequate to take care of the vast, I mean, it is a huge spectrum of needs. So that is one of the questions I had as well. So I like that we had a parent that came and spoke to that. So that's just all I want to say.
Thank you. Ms. Waldman?
Do you have something?
Yeah, I think what we're learning out of this is we may just have a naming convention problem. There is a complete line with an executive director that will oversee special education services. It's just called related services right now. And so that's where the collaboration process kicks in that Marcy said, and it provides 6 people across different, 6 different regions to help integrate those special education and exceptional student services. So it's good knowledge to have, and we just got to get our naming conventions right, I think, because those supports are there underneath an executive director.
Thank you.
So thank you. That's a good point for our superintendent. And I just kind of wanted to throw out that I do have a lot of experience in trying to gain efficiencies, and I worked in the financial sector during the market crash and saw a lot of merger and acquisition activity where, we had companies closing and downsizing. And one of the things that I learned and observed is that when you focus on efficiency and you focus on metrics, you get better. So I do feel very confident in this reorganization that as we're looking at data, as our superintendent is data oriented, in that focus on efficiency, in that focus on outputs, that we are going to get better. I think that we will find that our students in all their different categories will have more of their needs met in this new focus that we're taking. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other discussion? All right. Seeing none, Ms. Kirby, will you please take our vote? With a vote of 5 yeas, you have approved the personnel request, including the addendum. Do I have a motion to approve the qualified evaluators for Mesa Public Schools for the 2025-26 school year?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Kerber, will you please take our vote? With a vote of 5 yeas, we have approved the qualified evaluators for Mesa Public Schools for the 2025-26 school year. We'll now move into our consent agenda items. All items listed will be considered as a group and will be approved with one motion. If a board member would like to spotlight or comment on a consent agenda item, please do so after the vote. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda according to the recommended action for each item?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Ms. Kerber, will you please take our vote? With a vote of 5 yeas, we have approved the consent agenda items according to the recommended action for each item. Sorry, I had a...
Madam President,
Okay,
may I make a
am I
comment
on-
about consent?
Okay, if you refresh.
Yeah, I
it's
did it.
moved.
I already did, and it moved
Thank
it.
you. It moved to the first. Sorry.
Can I make a real quick comment?
Yes, please.
Mr. Lowe brought up that he really wanted to make sure that we were overseeing how the money is spent and where the money is spent. And in the spirit of that, I really appreciate my request being met, that we as a board are given actually who we're paying and descriptions for that. So we do now have a better set of eyes on what's happening. So I appreciate that. And of course, I'll have questions that I'm sending you to tomorrow.
Thank you. We'll now move into action items. Our first action item will be the consent agenda item that was moved for a purchasing contract increase, special education student services. Recommended approval of a contract increase for $350,000 for a specialty service due to 3 students requiring individualized nursing support. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion?
Yeah, could we have some clarity on the pricing, Mrs. Baca, and I know this is not strictly or solely for the 3 students that currently need additional assistance. And also, could you let us know, where is this money coming from versus, does that make sense? I know we're not going over budget because I already talked to Mr. Moore about that the other day. So could you just give us some clarity and the community clarity on the whole process?
So the whole account, this is an addition because we had 3 new students to the district who require a one-on-one nurse with them for them to be able to attend school. And so last year we had 3 students. This year we have 6 students that require full-time nursing support to be on a campus. And so, but there's a range. This is one area. So we do provide nursing, but there are school psychologists, speech therapists, occupational therapists, all that are on that contract. So these, when we have positions that are not filled by employees, we have to seek out to find the providers in our community from agencies. And so that's what this is for, to provide, to hire agency providers in the community to serve students in our school. And I think it's good to know that we are always looking to have employees fill those positions. So it's an ongoing recruitment of employees all year, all the time. And on occasion, we do find people who fill the position and then we close the contract and fill it with an employee instead of an agency provider. But it is multiple different providers providing services to obviously many more students than 3 students. It was just the late addition of these students who enrolled in Mesa and required that support.
Mrs. Baca, Member Benson, can I just elaborate a little bit? This agenda item is recommending the increase to a contract for new nursing services. And so the 300,000 is an estimate by Mrs. Baca's team to provide services for these students. But as she mentioned, there's a reconciliation process that goes into place. This is not a blank check of 300,000 to these vendors. This is just authorization to spend up to an additional 300,000 because of these new students. So as these students receive services, Mrs. Bach and her team reconcile those invoices, and we make sure that we pay for the services that we are being rendered, not to exceed 300,000. So, but as those services change or they decrease or increase, those are brought back via the vouchers. And then if we ever get close to exceeding this 300,000, then that would be brought back again to the board. So just know it's a procurement agenda item, but it's also like a procurement agenda item for special ed. So I hope that explains a little bit too about the procurement process.
And the funding is Medicaid reimbursement.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't come from M&O. So it is specifically a special education funding source, correct?
The reimbursement for Medicaid is based on, yes,
Yeah,
billing
and
for
if-
services provided.
And IDA requires that we provide services that are listed for every student's need
Yes.
under the special ed category.
Correct, to
Right.
give students to access. Yes.
Pardon me?
To give students access to school and to
Yes, thank you.
yes, those services.
Right, and these types of funds, we usually think of Medicaid as providing, health services, but Medicaid is also providing services to our special kids who need the assistance, and sometimes it's at great cost, but it provides them the opportunity to have a public education. And as Mr. Smithson said, they are seen and they are served, and we welcome them in a wide variety of ways, and sometimes the federal government is providing that assistance to make sure that these students have the services so that we can meet their strengths and needs.
You are correct, yes.
Okay.
I just want to clarify that amount is 350,000, correct? Not 300,000? Is that? No, you're fine. I just want to make sure I had it right. Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I just wanted to clarify too, I mean, I'll be supporting this, that I support school choice, but when it comes to educating every child, public schools don't get away with anything like some of the charters do. You're not going to find these services at charter schools. So while it sounds really high and it says, well, it's only 3 students, by law, the district is required to provide all needs and services for that student to attend school and get an education. To Board Member Hutchinson's point and to Board Member Benson, I appreciate your comments and pointing out that this is Medicaid reimbursement. That's part of that pot of federal money that goes to help schools, knowing that the school has to provide this education. I do disagree in the public comment that it's related to DEI, as these are medical services, and we have to follow the law in the district, and that is state and federal law. Special ed students have federal protections that even the state can't override.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, Ms. Kirby, will you please take our vote? With a vote of 5 yeas, you have approved a contract increase for $350,000 for specialty services due to 3 students requiring individualized nursing support. Moving on to our next action item is our board goals. Do I have a motion to approve the 2025-26 board goals?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? We'll start with Ms. Hutchinson.
Yes, thank you. Board members, I would like to offer an amendment to the graduation goal. I believe you received a copy, a new copy of the graduation goal, and I added a sentence because we have some of our high schools, particularly Red Mountain High School, that has a 94.38% graduation rate. So I added a sentence that says, however, once a school reaches a 95% graduation rate, it is expected that the school will maintain that rate. In other words, we don't expect a school that's at 95% to go 5%. That would be, the kids are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And I looked at that goal and I went, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to get 100% of the kids graduated. Well, while we certainly would love that, we're dealing with a lot of variables. And so I'd like to propose that if a school did reach 95% graduation rate, they would meet the graduation goal by sustaining and maintaining that 95% rate. So I'd like to move an amendment to graduation goal number 1, which is the last sentence that was added that you have in front of you printed.
And that last sentence is on the one that's on the agenda that's attached to board docs, it looks like, too. Am I missing something that's added?
No, board docs was updated.
Okay.
So we don't need to amend.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. We're trying something new, and I'm going to try to get used to this. We're going to try to go in order. So Ms. Hutchinson, then Ms. Benson, Ms. Walden, Ms. Chaffee, then myself for questions. So if you see me looking a little bit like I've lost my mind, that might be that I'm like used to looking both ways. And we're going to try to make ourselves a little more structured so we can keep our meetings moving. And I'm not like trying to guess which side wants to go first. So anyway, Ms. Hutchinson started it. Ms. Benson, do you have anything?
No, I like the addition of the, once you reach 95%, it is, you just need to maintain that. This parallels what we expect from Dr. Strom, and if we are working in collaboration, not only as a board and as a working collaboratively with district leadership, and we're working collaboratively with our building admin, these goals should hopefully be able to be attained with very little problem. As I glance through the data that we were given, I do want to give a shout out to EVA, who apparently earned 35 out of 35 points. It's a little known, and that is one of the high schools I have in my feeder pattern, and I actually did make the assumption that it was a behavior school, and it is not. It's credit recovery. So I was corrected in that. So I like that they've done that. We probably should indicate that in our CCR, because you can't go any higher than 35 points. In fact, who knew you could get 35? And as I look at the results from graduation rates, a majority of our high schools are, actually a majority of our high schools would have already met this goal for this year. If not, I think only one. And again, Red Mountain, once they hit, they're so close to 95. So I think these are reasonable goals. And again, I think that our whole function as a public school district is to educate children. And the goal is to get graduation to happen. And that begins at elementary school. So we have to make sure that we are focused, laser focused at the elementary level, because it's sequential. So I think this is, I think it's a stretch goal, and I don't think it's an impossible goal. So I think that gives enough motivation to our staff and our teachers, our principals, district leadership to really hone in and focus in on what our primary function as a public school system is, and that is to educate children. So I really like the addition of the not making them think they have to have 150% graduation.
Thank you, Ms. Walden.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so our top high schools in the country, no one has 100% graduation rate. I think the most you can get is 98% because there's always that attrition that goes unaccounted for. So I am comfortable with this change. I want to ask Dr. Strom with your goals, because we want to support you in your goals as well. Do you have any issues with this addition?
No issues, and there's room enough in my goals to have a 5% increase as a district this year, right? That's the goal because we have some schools that need to move up, but I will, in preparation for the future year, tell you that as our schools get higher and higher, we'll need to understand there is what we call a ceiling effect in statistics that we may not be able to expect as a district, a 5% increase if all of our schools start to approach that 95%, 96% realm. That's my caveat.
So I'm comfortable. I think it's good to call out that they'll maintain that rate, but certainly I think they know and our principals know and they're smart enough to know they can go above it if they want to try to go over 96, 97. I think that's going to automatically happen, but it's important to call out that obviously no one's going to ever get to 100%. I'm really thrilled with these goals and the superintendent goals. I feel like that, this started in 2023 in trying to move the board to an academic focus, and it, to me, felt like it was a direct response to our families in the community that is, looking at student outcomes, and that's what the board is there. That's what everything should be done in the district, is to promote student outcomes. There's been a lot of focus on money and education. Education's been, to me, like a real political hot topic for 5 years now. And I feel like in trying to pay attention to the community, to our families, to, what do people in Arizona expect, that this is the direction that people want. They want to know that we're spending our resources and our time on promoting our students and getting them ready for the future, teaching them how to think, not what to think. And so I'm really excited that we're continuing this endeavor that was started in 2023 and focusing on academic proficiencies. And I think these goals will go hand in hand with Dr. Strom's goals. If these goals are achieved, and the majority of the goals are achieved, I think that that should be national news. I think if we can move the needle in the direction that Strom is aiming for, that's something that's really special and really hard to do. It's something that I've seen in government that's frustrating, is it takes a long time to enact change. So, I feel like now we're accelerating that. We're trying to get past that hump of pushing an iceberg, right? But the things are being set up, the positions, the reorganization, the focus on accountability, that we could see something coming up in the next year, the next 2 years, even if there's budget shortfalls and maybe there's schools that have to close, that we're still going to show the public something really special in turning around the academic proficiency, the graduation rates, and being able to tell families that if you send your kids here, they are going to be prepared for the future in a way that we hopefully create kids that can be self-reliant and confident adults. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jaffe.
I do think this is a great addition to our graduation goal, especially we know that our students are earning more credits. And so as our high school students earn more credits each year, it should be a very reasonable goal that we increase our graduation. And I really do appreciate that we as a board are focusing on academic goals. I've learned as a board member that you can focus on a lot of different things. There are a lot of different emails and a lot of different things going on in schools. And I've learned that you can't solve every problem, and it's not our job to get involved in every situation. But I do know that as we work together as a board, as we work with superintendency on really trying to improve outcomes, that we are going to impact student success, like Board Member Walden said.
Thank you. And I want to thank board members for their work in helping put together these goals and the research they've done and reaching out to principals and leadership to find out, is this attainable? And I appreciate the input that we've gotten from everyone. And as looking at these numbers from last year for our high schools, a huge shout out to our high school campuses and our leadership and teachers and staff at all of these schools and the hard work that's gone into making these numbers increase. And we're grateful for all their hard work that's gone in. And so a huge shout out to them. And with that, any other discussion? Oh, Ms. Hutchinson.
Thank you, President Davis. I sit on the Read on Mesa board, and Read on Arizona has established the Arizona Literacy Plan. And their goal is 72% proficiency by 2030. They list some key drivers, particularly expanding access to high-quality early learning, providing professional development for educators, providing evidence-based literacy solutions. But one of the key drivers is engaging families and communities. Key driver. And I'm going to suggest to our community that these goals cannot solely be the responsibility of our educators. They have to be the goals of this community. Engagement of our community and our families. And so I'm going to toss a little challenge out there to the SIACs, to the PTOs, to our district parental advisory committees, that they address the issue of literacy, meet the needs of their kids where they're at. And one of the things that parents can do that will move the needle the most is to make sure their kids are at school. Chronic absenteeism that solution starts at home. So let's make sure that our educators know that we support them as a community. This is not solely on them. They are the professionals, but this community needs to make sure that we're supporting them. So let's see if we can't come up with some creative ways. And Read on Mesa has a website on the City of Mesa page. It's very informative on how parents can help their kids want to read better, read for comprehension. I really recommend every family getting behind the board goals.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No, just to piggyback off of Member Hutchinson, the way that you become a better reader is by reading or being read to. The way you become a better writer, the way you become better at math is by doing it. It's just like an athlete, right? An athlete cannot perfect their sport. A musician can't perfect their music. An artist can't without practice and without repetition and doing things over and over. And I agree with Member Hutchinson. It is not strictly education. Is not just within the walls of a school. It is vitally important that parents are involved in reading to their kids, making their kids get off their silly technology devices and read. Play math games. There's tons of things and different free activities you can do that actually make math facts, for example, fun to do. So getting those out to people and making sure that that we have to change the paradigm that school just happens and education just happens within the walls of our school. That's not true, right? Education begins at home, and parents, we're here to actually support you in raising your children as competent, literate, mathematically sound adults. So I liked, and I was wondering why the Arizona Literacy Plan was on here. I was like, what, are we voting on that? What is this? Although it was very informative. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Seeing none, Ms. Kirby, would you please take our vote? With a vote of 5 yeas, we have approved the 2025-26 board goals. We'll now move into, we have now changed this information items. Tonight, our first presentation is an update on the 14 intensive schools for the 2024-25 school year. We're going to follow the format I introduced earlier with 15 minutes for the presentation and up to 15 minutes for discussion. Mr. Wing, are you ready? All right. And I have Dr. Strom, are you starting us or how are we going?
Madam President, members of the board, nothing great in life ever happens on your own. And we have a great team here this last year that did a lot of work to help with our school improvement process. And Ms. De La Torre, Ms. Mesa, Dr. Eastlis, Ms. Baca, or Ms. Mann, like a team of people did this work. And so we're just proud to bring this presentation to you. And, the work doesn't stop here. It's about cycles of learning and coming back and improving on the next cycle and the next cycle. And I'll toss it over to Ms. De La Torre. Or Ms. Mesa. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll start. Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, today we're here to update you on our work with school improvement that we affectionately call School Improvement Action Planning. And so last year at this time, we brought you our introduction to this work, which was last August, was our first conversation about this. And then we also in November brought an update to you about what we were doing at that time and where we were going next. So this is our next step around providing information for you around what work was done since that time and how schools ended up measuring up as far as meeting their goals. So our goals for today are to provide an update around the intensive school work, to share some stories. A couple of meetings ago, Member Hutchinson asked about what's happening in those schools and can we share stories. So we do have principals here to share that work with you. And then also the progress data about how these schools really ended up meeting or achieving some of the goals or growth. And then finally, we'll wrap up with discussing next steps. Where are we in next steps in this work? So last year when we began this work, it really started in the summer with an analysis of our data around AASA data as well as our FastBridge data, and really thinking about how schools are doing over time. And once we had all those indicators, we looked at all of our schools and we identified 14 schools that we felt needed some more intensive support. That's where that word comes from. And we really thought about how to do that work with a collective effort through cross-functional teams, which really ensured that we were working together across departments to make sure that we had provided support in those identified areas for specific schools in order to ensure that they would make progress. And so our goal was then to create that system and ensure that our goal was to really see if 11 of those 14 schools could meet at least 3 or 4 of those goals that were set by the board last year. And so when we started, we really got laser focused on the work of intensive schools. What did that mean? It meant really thinking about the needs that they had and then putting that work into action and monitoring and evaluating what we were doing with that work. And then as we moved through those processes, thinking about how we could scale that work into a continuous improvement model that right now exists in K-8. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. De La Torre so she can talk more about the specific work that was done with intensive schools.
All right, good evening. Thank you for having me today. So I'm going to get started on a page that has a lot of writing on it, and I realize that. So I'm just going to focus on the headings of that and allow you to read those under the subheadings. So within this, we went through the school improvement process with our intensive support schools, starting with identifying of a need. That came through data processes, having them dig into multiple pieces of data to be able to identify what are some areas of need on your campus based off that data. Then going into creating SMART goals based off of that. The next step was go into a root cause analysis, which if you've ever seen that is a pretty intensive process where you're really digging into what is the root cause of this being the problem within our data. And we took it even further through going through a 5 why process that digs even deeper. And from there, we asked them to then create theories of action or strategies that they would then utilize to be able to address the overall problem or need from the data. From there, we then took them into action planning, which was fairly intensive. It goes through who is going to be responsible for each action step, what are the dates that those are going to be accomplished, and what are the measurements that are going to tell you whether or not that action step was impactful. And then finally, we went into resource alignment. So not just resource alignment when you think of funding, that was a part of it, definitely. When you're thinking about, for me in particular, I'm over our Title I grant. So how do we help our schools to align their funds to meet the needs of those particular areas of focus? But also, how are we utilizing resources such as people on our campus? So our instructional coaches. When we have identified needs, we've created a theory of action and an action plan. How are those instructional coaches on your campus supporting that work? And then what other resources are you engaging to be able to support that work? The part that we did with our school improvement, intensive support schools was exactly bringing them together to go through this process. And again, it's a very intensive process. So after going through it one time, we then brought them in as smaller groups, and we had various individuals from directors, specifically from teaching and learning and special education, sitting alongside the schools to process through this work. We then created also a one-point rubric for them to be able to assess how are we doing through this process to determine whether or not it's working or not. Goal behind that is to really build that sustainability so that this becomes part of what we do on a regular basis as a district. And with that, again, there was a lot of support provided to each of those schools, opportunities for processing with directors and or other specialists in the room from the various departments. After each of those steps, we then provided individual feedback and support to those schools, again, through the directors in teaching and learning and special education. The next step, this actually is our scaled work. So we saw a lot of success from this work and really seen that we were able to provide the additional supports from all the departments for the schools as they went through this process. So we scaled this work for K-8, all K-8 schools in the spring, starting in January. We did a very similar process, but it was massive, right? It was all our K-8 schools. So we really took it step by step, again, utilizing that one-point rubric and those opportunities for feedback and support. So after every single step, the schools received feedback on how they did through that process and how we could best help them align their process even more. So then from there, they created, again, action plans, professional learning plans, which they are living out currently, as well as alignment of those resources to those theories of action. These are our goals that were set for the schools. We talked about this earlier, so I'll just show those as a reminder, and I know you have the presentation as well. The next two slides are going to go into a visual to show you exactly how our schools, those intensive support schools, did. So you're going to see across the top the 4 goals that were set, and then see boxes of either green, yellow, or red. Green shows you that they met the goal that was set. Yellow shows you they showed progress towards that goal, and red is that they did not meet the goal, and in some cases, well, in many cases went backwards as well. So you're going to also see that there's percentages on some of them. We intentionally placed those there to show you just how close those schools were. And so this is really exciting work. You can see a lot of red and yellow, or sorry, yellow and green on these slides, which tells you a lot of our schools showed progress and met those goals. So we're very proud of that, and we want to make sure that we're recognizing the hard work our schools went through to meet these goals.
Ms. De La Torre, can I
Yes.
ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Just because I want to make sure Keno is recognized a little bit if you go back. And I
Sure.
know we're going to have Redbird and Poston come up and present. Explain what happened at Keno across ELA and math and making progress with minimally proficient and partially proficient kids. In every category, what happened?
What they did to get there?
No.
Oh.
The data showed they showed increases.
Yes,
I want everyone to
yes.
understand. Yellow,
Yes.
yellow, yellow,
Thank you.
yellow
Mhm.
means Keno showed increases.
Across each of the goals, exactly.
They just did not make the overall goal
Yes.
of 2, 20, and 20.
Yes. So, and Keno had a lot of intentional work through Project Momentum as well, but they definitely showed that progress through those, and all of those yellow areas show that. And again, very exciting to see that increase in all scores from many of our schools. All right. This is just another visual representation of that data. So you're seeing the ELA and the math pass rates. For ELA, 5 of our schools, of course, met it. 3 of our schools moved towards the goal, with a total of 57% of our schools showing increases in that particular area. In the math pass rate, you see that 11 of the schools met the goal, 2 of the schools moved in progress, which is a total of 92.9% of our schools making progress. And then on the below proficiency growth, again, you see that 5 met the goal and 9 made progress, which tells us all of the schools showed progress towards the goal. And again, you see the same thing with the below proficiency in math. 6 of the schools met the goal, and 8 of those schools showed growth, which again, 100% of our schools showed growth in this particular area. And I'm going to stop talking so I can let our schools share the amazing work that they did.
Madam President, to respect the schools being here and the fact that this is the first time doing it, can we give each school 5 minutes? All right.
You bet.
Do I have 4 minutes and 40 seconds? Okay. All right. Hi, I am Ani Erickson, proud principal at Redbird Elementary. So we actually made all of our goals last year, and we became a B school. So huge accomplishments at Redbird. Thank you. All right, so this journey, I want people to know that this did not happen overnight. So we started this journey in 2023. The administrative team and teachers began a multi-year collaborative school improvement progress to strengthen our Tier 1 instruction. I think it's Tier 1 instruction in ELA and math. In fall of 2023, administrators worked closely with teachers, district content specialists, and our MTSS leadership facilitators to review Redbird's school improvement plan. This collaboration identified our school greatest needs that led to the creation of an intentional planning document for our teachers. By spring of 2024, the teachers determined priority areas including understanding standards, standard alignment, learning targets, success criteria, Tier 1 small group instruction, assessment, while also developing UDL scaffolds to ensure we have equitable access to all of our students. Redbird also has an AIMS program on our campus as well. So during the summer of 2024, teachers were paid dedicated planning time through the grant to apply this framework to their intentional planning documents. And when school started, all teams were expected to use their Wednesdays to create this intentional planning doc. Additionally, the administrators created a quadrant data analysis sheet for each grade level to help them identify each student's needs and strength, and as they tailored instruction using FastBridge data. And then finally, through walkthroughs by administrators and coaches, our focus was entirely Tier 1 instruction in just ELA and math. All right, and then this is how we implemented it. Teachers used Wednesdays, and we stayed laser focused on Tier 1 instruction. The admin team provided weekly feedback to teachers on their intentional planning documents, and through this, a culture of learning developed as teachers actively sought feedback through emails, checklists, and walkthroughs. In April, this was not an easy process, so we needed a little community circle where we gave staff their voice to share honestly about the process, because again, this is a huge undertaking to ask teachers. And they told us, what do you need in order to make sure that we are moving forward in this process? Using this insight, administrators and coaches tailored the fourth quarter walkthroughs to provide this feedback that teachers were asking for. And then the data process at the beginning of the year, teams used the initial FastBridge data to target Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction and to identify student subgroups that needed extra help. And then in grades 4 through 6, teachers strategically identified bubble students Thank you to the R&E for providing all of that information to us. Bubble students that needed to move up, catch up, and keep up, and organize supports accordingly. And then as we got our middle of the year FastBridge data, grade level teams redefined those quadrant data analysis to highlight our progress. And then we created new need subgroups, including some of our EL learners and our students with IEPs. And then teachers and coaches then held data conversations with students ahead of AASA and EOY FastBridge assessments, so our students knew what their growth goals were as well.
We got 1 more minute, Mrs. Erickson.
Ooh, okay. All right, and then the next step, where I'm almost done, this is my shortest part. All right, so everything we did was great. So we're gonna continue that momentum of our previous year, but our teachers wanted and are now creating, attached to the intentional planning doc, they had asked for a unit planning doc to get the big picture. So teachers are now focused on the priority standards, deepening their understanding of the learning curriculum, and enhancing student agency so that kids have choice and voice in their learning. And then additionally, our data digs, so we're looking at not just BOI, MOI, and EOI, but how can they drive daily instruction using the data that they get from kids every day. And we are hoping that now we will also reach the 5% goal and meet all the goals next year as well. Thank you.
Yay.
All right, so I'm Mike Rapier, proud principal at Poston, and so I'm excited to tell you a little bit about our story. So our 3 goals going into from this intensive school work was first, create teams. Our create teams are interdisciplinary teams of ELA, social studies, and science, and they were focusing on reading and writing instruction. Our math teams were working together to develop scaffolding support for Tier 2 instruction and support. And then our teams were learning to work together as teams. At the secondary level, oftentimes they work in silos. And so we really wanted to break down those silo walls and have them working to the best interest of all of our students. So as we moved forward, we utilized our create teams to create smaller cohorts of students so that we could really focus in on knowing each individual student by name and serving them by strength and need. Our coaching team, which is made up of myself, my assistant principal, and our 2 coaches, our school improvement coach and our instructional coach. We create the coaching team, and we really provided feedback on their Tier 1 instruction through walkthroughs. We started focusing with our ELA teachers on performance level descriptors to really make sure that they were not only planning but assessing at grade level standards so that we can ensure that that was aligning. And then and then they would work with our science and social studies teachers to ensure the same thing was happening. Our math teams continue to utilize our intervention period, which we call pause time between 7th and 8th period, to use data to identify students to pull into reteach so that we can provide those additional Tier 2 supports for math. One of the things that we found extremely helpful is prior to ASA, our teachers utilized data conversations with each of our students. And when you look at a teacher workload of about 190 to 200 kids on a caseload, they worked there very rigorously to meet with all those kids. And it was eye-opening for the students and also eye-opening for the teachers. And it was awesome to watch them work as coaches for our learners, which was awesome. We also then ensured that going into the second half of the year and also into summer, we actually planned for quarterly planning days where our teams met with our coaches and all-day planning days where they were able to really focus together and make sure they're staying on top of our theories of action and really planning not only for the wrap-up of last year, but really diving in 4th quarter to prepare for going into this year. We provided support on Wednesdays, dedicated at our Wednesdays to make sure they had team planning. We all came together in our media center to make sure that we were planning with supports. We reached out to district teaching and learning to ensure that our content teachers had specialized support instruction on how to engage with the curriculum and the curricular resources. R&E was fabulous with building our data the way we wanted to see it so we could help our teachers really personalize that. And then through constant feedback from our coaching team, we're able to help facilitate improvement in the moment and also through our planning days. So going into this year, which I'm really excited about, we saw some great growth, and we're going to continue because we use the same process moving forward. We are going to focusing on our performance level descriptors and our tier 1 instruction. We're actually increasing data targeted intervention with our pause time across all of our core curriculum. And we're continuing data conversations. We're pushing our teachers or encouraging our teachers to have 2 data conversations as they progress through FastBridge prior to AASA. And we're also expanding professional learning opportunities. So all the junior high principals have collaborated to ensure that the 3rd Wednesday of every month, we're working with district content specialists, and we're breaking down the school silos to ensure, and that wasn't just my idea, that was all of us as junior high principals, to really make sure that we're providing content-specific support for those teachers to engage with the curricular resources adopted, as well as that understanding by design or backwards design planning time. And if we have title money, we will be utilizing that to provide paid planning days as well. So there we go.
So thank you for that. Yeah, this has been a team effort, as Dr. Strom said, and so our next steps would be to continue to monitor the work that we're doing with schools and ensuring that we're continuing to provide that cross-functional support, but also then expanding the focus to 912 and ensuring that they are able to walk through the same process and with the support that's been provided in K-8. And then just as we look at continuous improvement and creating those systems, just living in those, in that system, I guess it was the word, of always monitoring what we're doing, maintaining a laser focus, assessing what we're doing and tweaking it if we need to ensure that we're continuing to make progress. So that's our presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Questions? We'll start with Mrs. Hutchinson and go to her.
This is amazing. And Principal Erickson, thank you. Where's Principal Michael? There he is. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's incredibly energizing to hear you. But what I really appreciated was that students had voice, teachers had voice. Again, you're modeling the portrait of a graduate. You're giving kids agency, but you're giving the educators who teach those kids agency. And I really want to thank you because I think that's really the secret sauce. And I know Principal Erickson, having worked with the Dobson region last year and hearing your story, this has taken an incredible amount of work. And Michael, I know you. You are an inspiration. You work so hard, and you're both making an incredible difference in your communities. Thank you so much. And to have the support from your staff, I love it. I mean, it's awesome. So thank you very much. And Superintendent Strom and Ms. Mesa, thank you for providing a real life example to the real life problems that we were trying to solve. Thank you very much for providing the example.
Ms. Benson, thank you.
I just wanted to comment that, and I said it earlier, that graduation starts in elementary school. So if we get our students proficient at the elementary level, our junior highs, by the time a student gets there, if they're so far behind, it is statistically, it is so difficult to get them caught up. So I like the focus on the growth aspect as well. We know that in our lower income schools, they are also there's a high Hispanic population, oftentimes that we have ELL kids that English is not their first language. So I like that we added to your goals an ELL goal, because as I look at schools that potentially didn't reach their ELA goal, I'm wondering, is it because they had a high population of ELL kids that they're doing the best they can, but they've got to gain proficiency in English before they can, but then I have a question. So when when we provide our schools with resources and curriculum, but our kids are tested on standards, and it's my understanding that now we list essential standards, right? So how clearly does the curriculum that we provide to our teachers to use, how clearly does it line up to our teachers being able to teach to the standards without having to go out and search for other supplemental materials that in order to shore that up? Have we provided quality? Because I know the year that we had COVID, or during ESSER money, we adopted 4 curriculums pretty quickly. So are you seeing a connection? Do we have quality material that, or are our teachers going, I don't know what to do, what standard does this do? Does that make sense? I know I'm rambling.
Dr. Eastlis, could you take a first shot at that? And I'd love for the principals to come up and comment.
Yes, I'd love for the principals to come up, but first and foremost, when you go out and adopt a curriculum, just remember that those curriculum companies are meant to, what's the word I'm looking for, to help to align to a broad group of standards across the nation. And so in Arizona, we're local control, so we have our own standards as well. But so what I'm trying to say is every curriculum is not going to meet every single need. We do a very lengthy process through a request for proposal and get lots of feedback, but we have criteria that we look for so that we have hopefully the best curriculum that will align to those standards, but there's always going to be a need for some supplemental resources. In particular with our ELA and math curriculum, I would say that there is a strong alignment to our standards, but again, there's always going to be a need for filling some of those gaps. But I'll turn it over to our principals to speak specifically about what they're hearing and seeing from their teachers as well.
All right, he's making me go first. Yeah, so like Ms. Eastlis said, absolutely, right? So when there's curriculum, it's broad, right? I mean, I've taught in Illinois, I've taught here. So nothing is exactly the same. You always look at the standard. If the standard is not an Arizona standard, then you don't, right? Then that's not a lesson that, you know, the teacher should be focusing on. I do love that now the state put out the essential standards, because now I think it gives the teachers a little bit more of a laser focus of which standards to hit a little bit harder, right? Or really make sure that those kids are understanding those. But yes, absolutely. I do know that the Scholastic, it was a little shift. You went from a basal to a workshop model. So as long as our teachers understand that, right, that small group, that's what we focused on, small group, tier 1 instruction, and that when you're doing those small group, you're doing tier 1. When it's time to do tier 2, then it's time to do tier 2, right? So I think, and I have a young staff, so that's just right. I think a learning curve for them. That might not be the same at schools that, you know, don't have that. So I think that's what you also have to take into consideration, not just the curriculum, but your staff that you have, and making sure they understand that. But I absolutely think both programs, you know, been all over, yes, a program, but again, look at your standard, make sure, you know, that standard is aligned.
Can you remind us how you spent your ESSER dollars?
Oh, yes. I was one of the first to step in on the ESSER dollars when we wrote that grant. And one thing that I did notice at Redbird when I got there. So just so you know, I am a Mesa parent as well. So my son went to Red Mountain Ranch, graduated from Red Mountain. And actually, quick shout out, taking him to Arcadia University on Tuesday to, you know, go farther. But one thing that I did notice is that Redbird's classrooms had no books for our kids. So like I walk into, you know, my kids' school and I'm like, oh wow, they have a plethora, right, to pick from. So one of the things that we made sure is that at Redbird, every single classroom has about 350 to 400 books to pick from, besides our library that we made sure also had books. So our kids have books, they can check them out, they can take them home, because that accessibility is not at home. So we also made sure they had that.
I think one of the fulfilling things of being an educator is the art of planning and implementing lessons. And so really focusing on that backwards design. And starting with the standard, identifying the learning targets, the success criteria, and then diving into the adopted adopted resources, and then pulling that in and aligning it to that. So we're utilizing it to support standards-based instruction instead of just working through a textbook that is written for a broad nationwide market for those companies. One of the things I'm super excited about that's going to be happening next Wednesday is working with teaching and learning, and like I hinted to with our junior high teachers, content teachers, is they are really going to be starting to dive in with the support of teaching and learning, utilizing that backwards design, identifying those learning targets and success criteria, and then with the help of our content specialists at the district level are going to be instructing and helping our teachers, regardless of where they're at in their career, their expertise, start diving in and finding those resources that are out of our adopted curriculum to match the standards and then develop their lessons around that. So I know I'm not the only one for the junior high principals that we're excited to see this work. We actually have identified 4 schools. We're splitting up in those 4 content areas. I'm hosting math. Taylor's hosting science. Thank you. Keno's hosting ELA, and Stapley's hosting social studies. And so we're excited to see how we can build that expertise. Because we're all doing slightly different things. We're doing those cross-curricular teams and bringing that expertise by utilizing backwards design, standards focus, by utilizing and then pulling in our resources to provide that support. Then we can see where the holes are. Until we actually do that, we can't see what holes we are in the adopted curriculum that we might have to go to external. So.
Thank you. Ms. Walden?
Turn. So thank you so much for the principals and staff that showed up tonight, and I commend you for your efforts. And it's my favorite thing is to be able to hear about improvements that are happening in our schools. That's the best part of any board meeting, and especially improvements of this magnitude. I just had a follow-up question that is for superintendency. So for our schools that weren't able to meet these goals, what efforts are being done with these schools? Are we continuing on with the work that's been done, or is the work getting ramped up?
We are the effort in public education will never be ceased or stopped, and the improvement will always continue to occur. We are ramping up. We have Project Momentum schools working underneath the Arizona Department of Education that are strictly focused on the gears and backwards design and curriculum. And I think the person that's leading out that work with some of these schools who maybe need to continue to focus on improving this year because we didn't get as large of improvements as we wanted last year. Amy De La Torre is leading out that work. So, Amy?
Yeah, so as Dr. Strom mentioned, we have 10 schools that are engaging in Project Momentum this year, which goes very much into the work we're doing with continuous improvement, but at a very deep level. So they will be focused around GEARS, which focuses on our collaborative teams, creating collaborative teams, ensuring that those are high-quality collaborative teams where we're regularly looking at data, making decisions as we move forward with instruction, as well as that instructional design using the backward design process. I am their supervisor, so we have a very systemic process that we're going through to engage in professional learning, come together as a collaborative group, all 10 of us, on a specific campus, looking for those pieces, discussing next steps, and along the way from each of those processes, receiving support from teaching and learning and special education along the way to be able to support them. So I feel really good about the work we have planned as we move forward, but as Dr. Strom mentioned, continuous improvement. It's always looking at how is what we're doing working, having those regular data cycles to determine that, and making shifts if necessary. That's the point of continuous improvement. It doesn't mean you stick with it and you never change, right? Sometimes you have to make some moves. So we're really excited about the work that we're going to be engaging with those schools. We also, as mentioned, scaled a lot of the work for K-8 schools last year in the spring. So much of what both principals mentioned is happening at all K-8 schools this year. As well as leading learning for principals is going to be around the instructional design. So we have a lot of, I think, very strategic moves happening to help our schools.
About 2.5 minutes.
That's excellent. Thank you. I don't have any other questions or comments.
Thank you. Ms. Chaffee?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight for the board that, well, first, I really appreciated that we had an elementary school and a junior high, because I think that gives us a broad perspective. And there were some common themes. That time was used effectively, that they used data. So thank you so much to Arnie. I heard those shout outs a couple of times. Thank you for making that easier. That's an easier lift for our principals and our teachers. That they engage students, that they used tier 1 instruction, and that's something we talked about early on as a board, and that they used collaboration. And I think that as we move forward in looking at making improvements in ELA and math, that we need to keep having those conversations as board members, is how do we make those things happen on our campuses? And Ms. Mesa, my question is, were there any roadblocks that the schools encountered, and is there anything the school board can do to help out some of those roadblocks?
I think in our early work, roadblocks was maybe finding time together, because we had to really make that a focus and a priority. So some things had to come off our calendars to put that first, to then align what we were doing to ensure that we were now focused on that, and that we were able to provide the support around. So I think now that is part of our system, we've got a better handle on that. And I think it's just really digging in and ensuring that all of our teachers really have the time and support to be able to understand what they need from the curricular resources, to ensure that they are able to utilize them appropriately and consistently to meet the standards. And I think the next step, which, time is always of the essence, but, and I don't know how you'd support this, but it is part of the support that we're providing as an instructional leadership team, from superintendency down through directors, is really meeting every week to talk about what's happening in classrooms, what instructional practices do teachers and leaders need support with, so that when they do need something, then we're able to identify that, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's another resources. If we are in the work and we understand what that is, and we're all collaborating, I think that's been probably the biggest takeaway, is that the collaboration is key, and ensuring that when we're talking together and sharing that then we're able to go back and provide those resources. So I'll keep you posted. But time really was of the essence in that restructuring of our resources to ensure that we had now the focus on continuous improvement.
Speaking of time, President
Look at
Davis,
that.
you're welcome to extend the time.
Look
as
at that.
President of the governing board.
Well, thank you. Thank you for those participating tonight. And I loved hearing that we're collaborating with different schools across the district. I love that we're working together. I think that that's what we want. I think let's use each other and the resources we have and all work together. That's what we're going to do to move this forward. Just a note to my board members, in docs, there's a spreadsheet for follow-up questions that will also be published on Cameo, correct?
Yeah, we published follow-up for the next board meeting.
For the next board meeting? Okay, on board docs, there will be answers to those questions. So if you get thinking and you have other questions, you can input them in there and we'll get those answered and they will show on board docs. So going forward, so we have more opportunities to follow up with questions. And our next presentation, I'm very excited about. I've been involved in athletics for a long time, and we are going to have some athletic expectations for the 2025-26 year. I know as board members, we've received lots of emails this last year about what's gone on in some of our events, and so I'm looking forward to hearing what we're implementing. So
For
take
sure.
it over, Mr. Eubanks.
Yep. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Strom, thank you for having me and my athletic directors that assisted me in creating this. And thank you to Mr. Klecker for not wearing his No Toros tie today. He did not wear it, which was a positive. So game day expectations for students, fans, and sponsorship. This is really, I would say, on the cutting edge of Arizona when it comes to expectations. This does not exist in other places, in other school districts. I sit on the AIA Sportsmanship Committee, and oftentimes we talk about student behavior, treatment of officials, athlete expectations, etc. With club sports becoming more and more prevalent and just kind of the chaos that ensues with that learned behavior sometimes makes its way to us, and so we have to do our best to help correct it. So to get started, what are sports to our school? So oftentimes sports, band, activities leads its way, and it's the first opportunity that a lot of our community has interactions with our high schools. They get to meet our coaches, they get to see what high school, junior high might be about. It's visibility from the community, which can often be positive. A lot of the times it is, right, the interactions, but it also can be negative. So oftentimes what might seem small, and here's just some brief examples of some things that are on social media, some news articles over the last year, which may not seem like a big deal. You have one up there talking about an athletic director resigning the week before school. Apparently that's newsworthy in the state of Arizona as a big deal. So that had 1,500 views. Last year you had an athlete that high-fived their coach incorrectly, and that resulted in 10 athletes quitting the team, and then the coach was then resigning. People lose their jobs because of decisions that are made within athletics, whether it's recruiting or violations from the AIA. So there's a lot of scrutiny that's put on athletics as well. But here's a super positive thing connected to athletics. Last year, seniors in Mesa had a 98% graduation rate. So that's across all high schools, all seniors. That was the number we came up with as our seniors last year. So seniors that participate in athletics, I apologize.
Mr. Eubanks.
Sorry. Yes.
Member Hutchinson commented on how important the whole community getting involved in literacy is. And I think with this data presented right now, if the community wants to know, families want to know what's the number one thing you can do for your student besides your own support, surround them with great peers. And one of the great places to find great peers is in extracurricular activities, clubs, and then in this case, athletics. It keeps kids engaged, it keeps kids involved. And that's why you see that when kids are involved in extracurricular sports that, hey, they have a 98% graduation rate.
Yeah. And often people ask, what's that connected to? That's high expectations and built-in relationships that students have over a period of 4 years. So it's pretty easy to see if Coach Ender's over at Red Mountain could get his hands on a kid as a freshman, he's going to be pretty successful by the time he leaves Red Mountain High School. So that's a big kudos to all our schools. And the why. So over the past several years, we've seen several negative interactions. This is statewide. Declining amount of officials electing no longer to continue to work, or we're having to cancel games because of lack of officials, because it's not worth their time to come out for the $75 to be yelled at, cursed at, etc. So that's the why. Mesa Public Schools is going to lead the way in showing our expectations of what we expect from our fans, our students, our coaches, and officials, all together as a group. So the MPS Fan Initiative is what we'll be rolling out this year. So we do have a pre-recorded PSA. This is the written language for it, and you're going to hear a version of it here in a little bit. But this will play for every event that has an audio system that it can be played over. So you're going to hear it at football events, indoor gymnasium events, baseball, softball, etc., where you have a high level of fan interaction. So it's going to be super professional. You're going to hear, we're going to kind of force them to listen to it. It's going to be, please stand for the national anthem. Then this is going to play, then the national anthem. So everyone will be nice and quiet, and they're going to listen to this, and then we'll continue on with the game. So it's going to be pretty neat. You'll hear it every event you go to. And then athlete expectations. We are going to have some signage that we put up, do's and don'ts throughout the district. They're expected to treat officials with respect, and sportsmanlike behavior directed at opponents will not be tolerated. Athletes are encouraged to represent Mesa with pride and humility. So that's really going to come from training from the athletic directors to the coaches and coaches to the kids. But this in some capacity is already being taught, but it's going to be really honed in this year and with super focus. And then the student-fan interaction. Typically at the high schools, you'll see that there is a group of students that usually lead the charge when it comes to the chants that they elect to. Everyone's smiling up there. That they elect to begin to cheer. So the athletic directors will meet with them 3 times a year before each season and talk about expectations, what can be said, what can't be said. And the big focus here is cheering for our team, not against the other team. Not singling out another player from the other team. Not singling out a number or chanting something towards the other team, but rather cheering for our team. Now, no one's going to be perfect, but we're going to have things in place by the ADs to address that immediately when it does take place. Coaches are our role models. Recently this year, this past year, the AIA changed their ejection model from 1 game if a coach gets ejected to 2 games. And if it happens more than once, they can be removed from the entire season. They can be suspended for the year. I have never seen that happen, so I don't expect it to. And actually, the ejections from statewide have gone down substantially since this has been implemented from 1 ejection to 2. So coaches have been on their best behavior. We're fortunate enough to, I believe, have some of the best coaches in the state of Arizona across all our sports. And they do an excellent job of representing Mesa in a positive manner. And you can see up there we listed some coaches of the year over the various schools. Parents. Okay. Parents. While generally when they're at events and at games, if there's a bad call by an official, typically the normal boo or that's a bad call. While we're going to try to hone our parents to not have that behavior, what we're talking about is generally a little more aggressive than that. Oftentimes we're removing parents and fans from games for continually berating, like standing up in an empty or in a gym that's completely silent, cursing. We've had to trespass some fans in the past. So when I talk about parents, we're talking pretty extreme behaviors. So the typical fan behavior, we're wanting to be positive, but it's countless times I've had to do it. All of these guys have had to do it. Go up in the bleachers and say, "Hey, would you mind relaxing? Let's take a step back. Let's focus on the game and enjoy ourselves." The traveling call that the official made is not the end of the world. So. And then we have collaborated with our Ed TV department and created some videos. We are going to have individual videos for each high school that will be played prior to our larger games, setting the tone for our students, our community. Chad, if we can go ahead and hit that.
Hi, my name is Rank Curiel, and I play for the Mountain View football team. Chant loud but never rude. Treat players, coaches, and officials with dignity.
My name is Chloe Lopez. I play volleyball at Skyline High School. On the field or in the gym, we represent our schools with class and pride. I'm in the CG, and all of us with spirit like the sea. We uplift our teammates and opponents. Everyone deserves this friendship.
My name is Kai Kai. I'm a basketball player here at Mesa High. We celebrate effort, respect the game, respect the cause.
Hi, my name is Aliana. I attend Dobson High School and I play for the flag football team and varsity girls basketball team. We lead by example, follow the rules, and keep it safe.
Oh, my name is Jamison Wade. I play football here at Mountain. No booing, no taunting, no hate. That's how we show up.
Welcome to today's event, and thank you for supporting Mesa Public Schools Athletics. Our student athletes compete with pride, and your role as fans, families, and community members is just as important. Mesa Public Schools is committed to creating a positive and respectful environment. That's why we have clear expectations. Cheer for your team, not against the other. Support with pride. Lead with respect. Every athlete, coach, and official on the field is someone's child, teammate, and friend. Let's represent our community with spirit, sportsmanship, and unity. Thank you for helping us set the standard for what it means to be an MPS fan.
So that's the audio you heard at the end is going to be the PSA that's played after the national anthem. So that little 45-second clip, and it will be recorded by. There's a lot of pride with announcers in Mesa Public Schools. I don't know if everyone's aware of that. So I said we'll just use Mesa's, and that did not go over well. So everyone's announcer, their own voice will be heard during Yeah, so it'll be recorded and very nice. So anyway, but a version of that, again, will be individualized for each school. So Mesa High, let's say they're playing out of district school, it will just be Mesa Highs or Skyline or Westwood kids with coaches, etc. And then officials. The officials are going to be treated with utmost respect. They're going to look forward to coming to Mesa. They're going to come in, they're going to check in with the athletic director, they're going to be shown to their locker room, they're going to have a bottle of water and a snack waiting for them, a special seat, they can watch the game, and then if they request it, which it has happened in the past, requested security to their vehicle after a game. Which may seem a little overblown, but there's been some pretty heated games in the past, and we've had to do it. So, pre-games ops meetings, we are going to initiate some ops meetings that take place for our high-level events that require some coordination with security. And some examples would be Battle Brown Road, Mountain View Red Mountain, Mesa High versus Mountain View Hoops, and a few others. Volleyball, we get into some as well. And what that'll entail is meeting with security, talking about exit plans, where students are going to sit, how many security guards you're going to bring, just coming up with a comprehensive plan. So this is a model that myself and actually Mr. Kleka had implemented over in Tempe at Desert Vista, and we were there for the Tukey Bowl. So, GoFan ticketing. So anybody that purchases a GoFan ticket via Mesa Public Schools will then have to acknowledge that they agree with this item here. So that will validate if we have an issue with someone in the stands or someone that has to have a talk to, they would have accepted this as a understanding and agreement to get into the gymnasium. This is also something that we will be placing on banners and signage around our schools as well. That will be made to look in the school's particular colors, not just the Toro blue or Westwood blue, because I get some heat for that. It's Toro blue. Sorry, Wario. See what I have to deal with around here. And then we also will have school announcements. We have the ability to post all this on TVs throughout the school and kind of rolling announcements. And so Kylie Thomas in my office is coordinating that with the school and getting those loaded as well. Marquees, we have created some marquee messaging. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but as you're sitting on the road in the corner, you're going to see some of these messages coming up on the marquees, talking specifically about sportsmanship, expectations for games, etc., rolling with the other school announcements as well. And then we do have, I'm trying to skip here. We do have some schools that have video display scores tables, so these will be displayed on the scores tables along with ads and other information that they have rolling announcements for on the school. So that is the presentation I have, and turn it over.
Thank you so much, board members. Ms. Hutchinson, anything?
I love it. And I'm pleased that Mesa Public Schools is leading the way. We're the flagship, and we ought to be leading the way. And I appreciate, and I told you this in the email I sent you today, that I really appreciate the thoughtfulness and the professionalism that you have displayed, I know, as a collaborative team to come up with this. I love the idea of high expectations. And when Dr. Strom mentioned relationships, little known fact, I was the girls' tennis coach at Mesa High a long time ago, and I still get Facebook messages from my number 1 and number 2 player. Relationships are important. This type of model of behavior is going to foster positive relationships. And I really think that this is an extremely important endeavor that you guys have done. We got lots of emails last time, and it was like mind blowing.
Tell me about
behaviors that we were being told, and having not taught in high school for a few years now, it was blowing my mind that was actually going on, because that didn't happen when I was teaching at Red Mountain, or Dobson. So I really appreciate the efforts, and I think it's spectacular. Thank you.
Yep. I'm David Klecka from Mesa High School. We know as leaders we have a lot of eyeballs on us, especially in athletics. And I think it was this summer I met Joe Goodman at Ned's Subs. And we had a nice lunch. I had purple, he had red on. And we took a photo out in front of the sub shop. And I put it on social media. And it surprised me. People I didn't even know responded with, "How could you have lunch with a Toro?" So what I've decided is Joe and I, throughout the year, are going to meet for lunch at various places in our school colors, and we're going to have fun with it because we know as leaders, our kids are watching us, they're watching their coaches, and they're watching their parents. And if they can see the two of us having a good time, I think that goes a long way. We all want to win. We're all competitive. I've been a part of Rivals as a player, a coach, and now an AD. And for whatever reason, it's flipped to where now rivals are poison. But back in the day, we grew up with our rival. So Mesa is the biggest and the best. And so little things like Joe and I going to lunch, I think is going to go a long way. So that's our plan.
I would add, hi, Joe Goodman, Mountain View. I would also add that in part of these conversations, we will be encouraging kids a lot of what they should do and not just focusing on what they should avoid, because you can't just leave a void and hope they fill it correctly, right? You have to give them things. And so, as part of this conversation, we will talk about what I call good, wholesome smack talk, right? I mean, when you go to a basketball game and they say, "You got swatted," like, we're okay with that, guys. That's fun. That's part of the game, part of the atmosphere, but it's that negativity that we're going to really address, but try to encourage them to use their voice positively. So,
I paid for lunch, though, by the way.
Thank you, Ms. Benson.
So purple and red, that's the Red Hat Society for us old women. So that's good, those two colors together. So I'm glad to hear that some smack talk is going to be allowed, because my daughter was the JV basketball coach over at Dobson.
Yep.
And I used to say last spring, my first negative newspaper article about a board member is the fact that I was very energetic in cheering for Dobson. Frequently, I offered the officials my glasses. Is that still going to be allowed?
Probably not. You'll have a talking to if we're doing that.
No, the AD loves me, so I'm not worried about that. Well, because I'm not athletic. I'm not quite sure where my daughter came from, but a huge part of sports is the psychology, right? And the being able to get into the minds of the other player. That was the only thing that made me even remotely decent at softball, was I could get into the head of the other team. So we're still going to be allowing those kinds of things, right? It's just the viral profanity,
Yeah, we want our image from the outside to be that we're respectful in everything that we do.
but we still can get into the minds of the other players, right?
You'll have to tell me a little bit more about what you mean.
Okay, so short story, I played softball and I was the catcher. Okay, so when a batter would come up, I would say, "You may as well swing because you know it's going to be a strike. Go ahead, swing. Come on, you know it's going to be a strike." And inevitably they would swing. Is that still allowed?
Well, I don't know that anyone's going to hear it. That's what we'll have to see. So
No. I mean, if I were still a catcher.
Well, I don't know that anyone's going to hear anybody say anything like that. So probably it will go under the radar. Sure.
Okay. So my next thing, the things that we got that got written to us were pretty vile, right? I mean, they were really above and beyond what would be expected. How much of that do you think relates to social media and the exposure of kids have?
I think a lot of it is related to club activity and club sports and not being reined in. There's a fear, I believe, when you get into the club scene and the club world, you're dealing with people that are making money. Okay, so when you have money being exchanged in the club world, you don't want to lose kids. So you're more likely to appease families, appease kids, to
Oh.
keep them, regardless of the behavior, regardless of what the parent says in the stands, because they're paying your electric bill.
Oh,
So then that translates over to us when we have expectations, and that doesn't always work for what we're doing. So, yeah, it's been an ongoing fight. I mean, I remember, geez, I've been doing this for a long time. And a previous school I was at, the student section all planned to bring the bouncy balls during a game, and in unison, about 1,000 of them threw 500 bouncy balls each onto the court during the game. So that game finished with just parents in the stands. There's been we've had to, like you saw those ops plans. There's a reason those exist. Exiting fans out, exiting these students out of this door and this students out of this door, and holding our kids until those kids are in their cars leaving. And you can come up with every plan you want, and then there's a brick wall that's not school property, and 40 kids hop that brick wall and start a fight with the opposing school because something happened on the weekend. So it's a difficult thing to try to plan for everything, but man, we sure try our best. So.
Okay, and then I have just one final question. Your pre-game ops meeting, is that just going to be with other Mesa schools? And if not, how logistically is that going to happen?
Yeah, typically it is. Typically it's for rivalry games. So when you can expect a high level of away fans traveling is when we're going to have these types of meetings. So that would be Mountain View going to Mesa, Mesa going to Mountain View, or like I said, the Battle Brown Road will be pretty much sold out. So what we'll talk about is security placement, how many security guards you're bringing, how many we need, where's our exit strategy, if something happens during the game, how we can exit the stadium, et cetera. Yep.
Yeah, because
head
I looked
coaches
through
are
that
there.
last night. I was like, how logistically is that going to happen if it's, a majority of the game? To me, that would be just so much time.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, so the first one will probably be these guys playing their football game in a couple weeks, so we'll be able to model it. But yeah, it doesn't happen as often as you think. It's the big, highly anticipated, highly attended events. Thousands of people, yeah.
Thank you. Mrs. Walden, any?
Thank you so much. I would like to just echo my colleagues' sentiments and appreciating the work that you're doing to help make our athletics a more positive environment. I've never liked the hostility in athletics. I'm not surprised by your statistic that our seniors that participate in sports have a 98% graduation rate. 'Cause I've certainly observed that those kids are really engaged in school. There's all these positives that athletics brings, which makes the negative something that was just never palatable for me. So I was really just disinterested when kids get really hostile about games, because at the end of the day, it is just a game, right?
Yep.
It's important, but it's for most kids, the next day the sun's going to come up and you're still going to have a regular school day and everything's going to be just fine whether you win or lost the game. So I'm very supportive of these changes. It is interesting that we got more emails this year about these events. Going into my third year on the board, I don't really remember getting many emails about sports. The first 2 years on the board, it's definitely kicked up. So I feel like this is very proactive. And again, as Ms. Hutchinson said, Mesa's leading the way. I think that's great.
Thank you. And the funny thing is, a lot of those kids after the games will go hang out and grab a burger after they yell at each other for 2 hours.
My brother played varsity sports. He did baseball and football, and we went out to a game. And when they were shaking hands in the line, one of the kids just started fighting another student, and this big fight broke out. And he's like, we just kept our helmets on till we got on the bus in case there were more fights. So I've seen it up close. I was there.
Pretty wild.
Ms. Chappie?
Yeah, thank you. Like Board Member Walden, I grew up as a dancer, and so I always am at the football games like, can we not cheer politely for everyone? But I'm married into a very athletic, very Toro proud family, and we go to those football games and we cheer loud. And I appreciate that we're focusing on honoring your team. And I know that you also have responsibilities on your campuses outside your athletic duties. So thank you for taking the time to do this, to keep our kids safe and to make sure that we can have enjoyable experiences at these games and celebrate our kids.
I just want to echo everyone and say thank you. I know that it sets a tone for our communities too, as a lot of these community members attend these games and these functions. It's, you know, this is Mesa Public Schools, and a lot of these first tastes for some of these families as they come to these games. And so I think if we can lead the way, what a great opportunity we have to be positive. And I echo the relationships. I was just pulling up some alumni stuff for a college event I have in a week, and I found my old Keno roster, and all of those girls are still dear friends of mine. They went to Mountain View, I went to Westwood. We played club here and there, but we're all still good friends. And I think the importance of relationships, and these kids, you're right, they go hang out after these games.
Yeah.
They're all good. They're all buddies. And so, you know, just fostering this positivity, I think is great. I'm all for a good rivalry, believe me. I am all about a good rivalry. But at the end of the day,
I've seen you at Toro volleyball games. I know.
but at the end of the day, we're all here for, you know, good things. So thank you for putting this together and leading the way. And I do think Mesa Public Schools is just setting the tone here, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Timekeeper, look at that.
I didn't have to give a 2-minute warning.
We are at the end of our meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, even though it's not 11 o'clock.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Kirby, will you please take our vote? With a vote of 5 yeas, the meeting is adjourned at 8:09. Thank you so much for being here.